A gentle mind settles like a stone in still water, and a quieter knowing moves through the space of thought like the slow turning of a wheel. The presence that comes forth is steady and clear, like moonlight on pale marble, neither hurried nor seeking applause. Its movements are purposeful, measured, each decision a careful placing of one small thought beside another. This presence holds the soft discipline of craft, the steady patience of one who has learned to wait for the right moment to act. In the hush, there is the sense of a mind that designs, organizes, and tends. Thought is a loom, and the loom moves at an untroubled pace. Threads cross and align, forming patterns that are both useful and beautiful. There is an economy to these motions, a knowing of when to add strength and when to soften an edge. Each thread is considered, each knot tied with a deliberate hand. The work is done not for spectacle but for purpose, to shelter, to clothe, to teach. Silence is part of the weave, and in that silence, wisdom takes shape, like a garment folded and set aside, ready for gentle use. She comes into being as a quiet law within the household of thought, a calm authority that prefers reason to fury, order to chaos. There is a reverence for skill, for the slow honing of ability that time brings. Strategy here is not a plan of conquest, but a map for safe passage, a set of careful footsteps across a field of stones. Each step is thought through, each possible turn considered with gentle caution. This mind favors foresight, the ability to see around a bend and to measure the weight of choices. The image of a mountain morning fits the feeling now. Cool air moving across terraces of ancient stone. A single olive tree stands on a slope, small and strong, its trunk knotted from many seasons, yet patient in its growth. Around it, the light is steady, soft, not harsh. That olive tree is a slow teacher. It offers calm nourishment and quiet resilience. Its roots braid through the earth like memory, anchoring what is fragile and giving voice to what is enduring. Armor rests not as a symbol of war, but as a careful protection for what must remain whole. The brushed metal gleams with restraint, reflecting nothing but steady light. There is a clarity in its simplicity, a refusal of ornament for its own sake. The shield is not raised in fury, but offered as a shelter, a place where decisions are kept safe long enough to be measured. The spear is long and balanced, more an extension of thought than a tool of destruction, marking direction rather than violence. An owl perches in the dim branches, its eyes wide and unstartled. It looks not with sharp surprise, but with patient attention, taking in the subtle movements of the night. Wisdom in its quiet form watches, learns, remembers. It is neither loud nor showy. It is present, a companion to thought that sees in the dark and keeps silent company with the mind that plans. Its feathers are soft and unassuming, a reminder that knowledge often arrives with a gentle whisper. The city that grows around such a presence does so with a careful hand. Streets are measured, stones laid true and level, houses built to shelter without ostentation. There is a public place for debate, a quiet hall where voices rise and fall like soft waves, each argument received and weighed. People come not to conquer, but to learn, to practice the crafts that make life steady. Here, skill is honored when it serves the many, when it tends the communal fire and draws pasta from the coals. Under the gentle governance of thought, crafts flourish with a particular tenderness. The potter centers clay on a wheel, and feels the slow give beneath fingers. Weaving becomes a meditation, each pattern a small philosophy of restraint and balance. Tools are extended hands, instruments for shaping what will shelter and feed. The chapel of skill is modest, lit by candles and the steady flame of concentration. There is a hush there, a reverence for the apprentice who breathes in rhythm with the turning wheel. Strategy is taught as a soft art of arranging possibilities, of creating pathways without forcing doors. It is a practice of small choices that together make the broader pattern. To strategize is to listen to the lands, to map currents and winds, and to place oneself where movement is easiest. It is a trust in deliberation rather than impulse, a compassion for the fragile elements that might be harmed by rashness. This kind of planning is gentle, protective, and respectful of the future. There is a story in the making of tools and in the naming of things. Names are given not to possess but to remember, to call back the lesson that came with each creation. The loom is named for patience, the plow for a quiet courage, the lamp for the clarity of a thought turned toward understanding. Language itself is treated as a delicate instrument, each word chosen for its capacity to reveal rather than to wound. In such speech, clarity arrives like a soft bell tone, precise and soothing. Gardens are tended with a thoughtful hand. Olives are pruned with patient judgment, branches lopped where needed, and left where strength grows. The soil is enriched with care, not taken for granted. Each tree is known by the pattern of its leaves and the scars of past seasons. Water moves in measured streams among the beds, a practice of giving in right measure. Gardening here is a slow teaching of restraint and abundance, a steady reminder that growth cannot be hurried without cost. In the quiet halls, those who seek counsel come with steady hearts. They do not demand immediate triumphs, but ask for guidance that will lead them through the small challenges of daily life. Advice is given like a measured breath, not a decree. Questions are met with reflections that widen the path rather than close it. The mind that answers sees beyond urgent desire to the shape of a long life, and it chooses responses that preserve and uplift. War, when it must be named, is spoken of in terms of prevention and restraint. The mind that strategizes prefers diplomacy, the crafting of compromise, the placement of obstacles that deter harm. When conflict is unavoidable, the emphasis is on minimizing suffering, on orchestrating movement so that harm is limited. The highest aim is the preservation of the community's capacity to live, to tend, and to learn. Force is a last resource, used only with reluctant and careful hands. The figure concerned with wisdom often trains the young in the gentle discipline of thought. Lessons are given in small increments, like beads strung on a cord, each one fitting into the next. Emphasis falls on observation, on learning how to listen to the quieter currents of human nature. Pupils are encouraged to ask questions that slow the rush of simple answers, to seek cause rather than blame. The education is a slow opening, a steady tending of the mind's most delicate parts. Patience is not idleness, but a quiet labor. It is the art of sleeping while the plants grow, of resting within the process rather than at the result. This patience teaches steadiness, the ability to remain present while the world rearranges itself. In this way, Wisdom grows not as a sudden revelation, but as a gentle accumulation of moments, each one adding a thin layer of understanding. The mind that learns this knows how to wait for the right turn. Silence, too, is a teacher of a kind. In silence, plans temper themselves, and impulsive motion fades. The quiet gives room for observation and for the subtle adjustments that lead to better outcomes. When words are soft and thought is still, clarity emerges like moonlight through a gap in cloud. The silence that accompanies wisdom is not emptiness, but a deep receptivity, a readiness to receive what is true and to set aside what is merely loud. The sea is a companion in these reflections, not with its tempests, but with its steady breath. Waves lap at a distant shore, counting time in even pulses. The mind that rules with calm strategy listens to the rhythm of those waves, learning when to push and when to rest. The sea offers a mirror for choices, showing how motions made with patience can shape long arcs across water. The slow movement of tide teaches the art of timing, of knowing when to let go. Light is observed as a measure of clarity. Daylight reveals edges and shapes, allowing plans to be laid out with care. The night brings a different clarity, a soft focus that allows inner thoughts to be seen. Both times of day have their uses for the deliberate mind. To govern by wisdom is to attune to these cycles, to place actions where they will be most effective and least harmful. Timing, like gentle weather, is a craft learned through practice. Stories are told quietly and without flourish, each one a small lesson. The tales shared are simple, often about ordinary people who find steadiness in small choices. A farmer learns to rotate crops and thus keeps the soil fertile for many seasons. A seamstress discovers a new stitch that saves cloth and time for her family. These stories are not meant for entertainment alone, but for guiding hands and hearts toward the slow work of living well. Temples and quiet spaces invite reflection without rigid dogma. The ritual is understated and practical, aimed at aligning intention with action. Offerings are modest: a single branch, a measured portion, a thanks spoken softly. Ceremony here is less a loud event than a confirmation of values, a way to remind oneself of the steady habits that make good life possible. These acts of quiet devotion strengthen the mind's capacity to choose well. There is also a deep respect for the natural limits of things. Ambition is tempered by an acceptance of what is sustainable. The focus is on flourishing that endures, not on sudden expansion that burns out. When a choice is considered, its ripple is imagined lightly, and the long-term health of the place and its people matters more than quick gain. This attitude keeps growth gentle and thoughtful. Artisans are held in gentle esteem for their ability to translate abstract thought into useful forms. The sculptor carves with a measured hand, revealing form through removal rather than force. The carpenter uses joints that last, choosing methods that avoid needless stress. Each craft is a conversation between thought and matter, a collaborative shaping that shows respect for both. The result is a landscape of objects that are practical, modest, and elegant. Wisdom is patient with mistakes. Errors are seen as opportunities to adjust rather than as marks of shame. A careful mind studies where slips occurred, learns how to reinforce weak points, and then proceeds with that new understanding. This approach fosters resilience, allowing communities and those who guide them to recover and continue. Compassion here is practical, built into systems that allow restoration and improvement. Law and counsel are offered as frameworks for peaceful life, rather than as rigid punishments. Rules are framed to protect the vulnerable and to encourage fair exchange. Counsel is a slow conversation that helps people see their options. The authority exercised in this manner is steady but not domineering. It guides rather than coerces. The goal is to maintain a balance where life can proceed with mutual support. Memory is treated with care, as if it were a delicate vessel. Stories of ancestors and earlier choices are preserved in simple tapestries and in the naming of gardens and plazas. Remembering is not an exercise in nostalgia, but a resource for present judgment, a ledger of what has been tried and what has flourished. These memories offer context, helping the living to choose paths that honor what came before while remaining open to what must change. The mind that values strategy also favors preparation. Supplies are stored modestly, plans for seasons ahead are discussed, and the community is taught to be prudent. Preparation is not fear, but a measured readiness to face the unknown with competence. It creates a background calm, a buffer against anxieties that can otherwise tilt toward haste. In being prepared, the people find a steadier sleep. Care for the young is practiced with an eye to teaching independence through skill. Children are introduced to tools early, not to harden them, but to give them competence and creativity. Play is a form of instruction here, gentle exercises in balance, in seeing, in making. The aim is to nurture minds that can think clearly, hands that can meet need, and hearts that can remain open to learning. Companionship is valued for its steady support. Friends sit together in quiet, sharing small tasks and small silences. There is an understanding that closeness is built in slow acts, that trust grows like moss on a stone, not quickly, but surely. These quiet relationships form the true net that holds a community safe, providing a place to rest and be renewed. Travel, when it occurs, is undertaken with measured purpose. Journeys are planned for the right season, routes chosen for safety and thoughtfulness rather than for speed. Travelers carry knowledge and tools, and they return with new perspectives that are added gently to the community's store of wisdom. Movement becomes a slow exchange, a soft widening of horizons rather than a frantic search for novelty. Symbols are simple and clear, intended to remind rather than to confuse. The owl sits in a low branch, the small lamp burns steadily, and the olive tree shows its thin leaves in the breeze. These symbols are anchors for thought, small prompts to remember the virtues of care, craft, and clear-headed planning. They are not exaltations, but humble reminders of what sustains life. Teaching also attends to ethics, how to act when choices affect many. The emphasis is on proportionality and compassion. Deciding is an act of respect for those who will live with the consequences. And so wisdom here is practiced as a collective stewardship. Advice is given in the form of questions that lead the asker into their own clearer perception, gently guiding but not dominating. The inner life is cultivated like a garden. Habits of reflection are planted and tended, and small rituals of thought are repeated until they become second nature. Breath is used as a simple tool to center attention, and the body's rhythm becomes a guide for steady decision-making. This cultivation yields a mind that can remain calm amid noise, rooted in a practice of clarity. There is a soft reverence for the limits of human control. Not everything can be shaped, and sometimes the wisest act is to accept and adapt. Acceptance is not resignation, but a responsive adjustment, a change that allows for flourishing within new conditions. This humility buffers against the strain of pushing against immutable things and creates room for creative solutions within real constraints. Counsel is often given through metaphor, a way to teach without forcing direct prescriptions. Comparisons to gardens, to weaving, to the steady sea, allow lessons to be absorbed gently. Metaphor softens the reception of guidance, letting it seep into the listener's understanding at their own pace. This method respects the learner, trusting them to find their own ground within an offered image. The presence that governs by thought values balance above excess. Excess is seen to create fragility, while balance promotes endurance. Decisions are weighed not only for immediate gain, but for their capacity to persist. The ideal is enough, well used, and responsibly tended. A life of measured comforts rather than opulent consumption. This orientation preserves the health of the community and the land. Storytellers in this culture speak in tones that soothe as well as inform. Their narratives are paced like folding cloth, each detail added without hurry. They do not seek to inflame, but to settle, to give models for behavior that are replicable and gentle. The stories themselves become instructional fabrics, woven with care and handed down in patient rhythms. Wisdom's guardians take pleasure in small triumphs. A newborn tree that survives a harsh winter, a lesson that finally settles in a student, a dispute resolved with dignity. These quiet victories are celebrated in modest ways with shared bread, a spoken thanks, and an extra hour of rest. Joy here is not loud, but deep, a warmth that spreads through simple acts and steadies the community. The mind of strategy knows when to use silence as a shield and when to speak as a balm. Words are measured for their effect, used to heal or instruct rather than to wound. Silence is sometimes the clearer counsel, giving time for thought to align. Speech is chosen when it will foster understanding, when it can guide a confused heart toward steadier action. Long-term thinking is valued over short-term applause. Plans are sketched with an eye to the future, to the needs of those who will come after. This perspective reduces the temptation to overreach and encourages stewardship of resources. The community nurtured in this way learns to live with a patience that protects them from quick ruin. Art and reason are not opposed but interwoven. Patterns and proportions are studied for their practical beauty, for how they make things more serviceable and more humane. The aesthetic sense here grows out of use. A chair shaped for comfort becomes beautiful because it serves kindly. The confluence of art and reason makes daily life gentler and less strained. As seasons shift, the community adapts with calm deliberation. Harvests are stored, plans adjusted for leaner years, and celebrations held when abundance returns. This cyclical living trains attention to time, to the rhythms of nature. It becomes a long practice of pacing, of matching human action to the steady flow of the wider world. The presence that watches over these ways is patient and steady, a model of a mind that sees many steps ahead without hurry. Its decisions are small and careful, accumulating into a life that is balanced and sustained. The work continues, quietly, without fanfare, a slow accumulation of right acts that build a resilient life. There is comfort in that continuity, a soft assurance that steady care will be rewarded in the long arc of seasons and years. She walks along an avenue of worn stones that remember many feet. Each step is measured, deliberate, as if someone is teaching the world how to move without hurry. The air around her carries the scent of olives and cool water, a quiet presence that calms the chest and slows the pulse. Light spreads like soft cloth across the low buildings, and each window holds a gentle promise of warmth. Thoughts drift like small boats on a wide river, kept steady by the slow current. There is no rush to arrive. The path itself, the stones underfoot, and the rhythm of breathing become a single, steady instruction in how to continue. A faint breeze comes from the sea, carrying with it the sound of distant waves. That sound is simple and even, a repetitive melody that sinks into the bones and smooths the edges of restless thinking. It reminds the mind of first principles, quiet things like balance, measure, and careful sight. There is a feeling of hand stitching a pattern, making small, precise movements that together create something lasting. Each choice becomes a stitch. Each pause between stitches is as important as the movement. In that soft cadence, wisdom grows not as a sudden revelation, but as patient construction. Like a wall built stone by stone, her presence is like a lantern set on a low table, its flame steady and untroubled. It does not flare or demand attention. It simply offers enough light to see the next small step. That small light invites the listener to notice simple truths. There's a time to think, a time to act, and a time to rest. To practice this is to learn a gentle discipline. It involves breathing with intention and aligning small choices with a broader, quieter purpose. There is a comfort in knowing that large things are often the sum of small, patient acts, each done with mindful care and a steady hand. In houses where craftsmen shape clay and wood, her influence moves like warm water through the hands. Fingers press and guide, coaxing form from raw material. The act of making encourages a calm confidence. A potter centers the wheel, and the clay yields when touched with patience. The same patience guides thought. When ideas are shaped with steady attention, they become useful and beautiful in small, practical ways. In these gentle tasks, wisdom shows itself not as a distant ideal, but as a daily practice that can be repeated, refined, and passed on without hurry or strain. Conversations that take place in this gentle hour are soft and attentive. Words are chosen like seeds, carefully placed in fertile ground. There is an unhurried listening that values the pause between sentences as much as the sentence itself. In that pause, understanding settles. It is a kind of slow becoming, where thoughts are allowed time to extend their roots. Exchanges are not contests, but shared visits to a calm courtyard where ideas sit together and warm each other. This manner of speaking invites a quiet honesty, a simplicity that deepens rather than distracts. When decisions are made here, they feel like placing stones to mark a path. Each stone is chosen with attention to shape and fit, arranged so the path will guide and support gentle travel. Strategy appears not as a plan for conquest, but as thoughtful preparation. It is the practice of anticipating needs and shaping the environment so that later steps are easier and harm is less likely. That kind of foresight is quiet work. It is the patient tending of circumstances, the slow arrangement of cause and effect in service of well-being and steadiness. She watches over both small rooms and broad plazas with the same untroubled interest. Nothing is dismissed as too simple to be important. The daily order of chores, the way people wash a pan or sweep a threshold, holds a kind of sacred attention. When daily tasks are done with care, they become a ritual that steadies the mind. Repetition does not dull the spirit. Rather, it becomes the background music of a life that moves steadily. In that gentle rhythm, there is room for reflection and for the soft growth of understanding. Light passes through leaves overhead, and the shifting patterns are like slow thoughts across the mind. Shadows and sun play together without urgency, and the motion is almost imperceptible. It teaches that clarity is not always bright and immediate. Sometimes it arrives as a gentle change in tone, a subtle alignment that reveals a new angle. This way of knowing respects small shifts and incremental improvements. It values steady refinement over sudden transformations, accepting that most meaningful changes take place over long stretches and many quiet repetitions. The steady companion of an owl rests in a high branch, watchful but calm. Its quiet observation is a gentle reminder that attention can be restful and present. Seeing without haste allows for a wider view, one that takes in the pattern of things rather than reacting to particular sparks. That broad sight helps shape choices that endure. When one looks both near and far with the same quiet curiosity, the heart is less likely to be swayed by passing storms. Instead, each moment becomes part of a longer, coherent path. Paths diverge in quiet fields, each marked by stones and small shrubs. Choosing a way is not an urgent decree, but a considered step. Strategy here involves noticing the slope of the land, the direction of the wind, the quality of the soil. There is a gentle mathematic to living. Small inputs shape outcomes over time. An unhurried calculation of resources and needs produces harmony. There is no need for haste, because time itself can be an ally when movements are patient and measured. The choice to wait, to prepare, or to adjust is respected as a valid and often wise strategy. There is a soft reverence for craft and for law, not as abstract commands, but as habits that weave safety and freedom together. Rules are not rigid chains, but supportive beams in a dwelling. They help shape conduct so communities move in steady, predictable ways that allow trust to grow. Craftsmanship and thoughtful rules both encourage attention to detail and an appreciation for the cumulative effect of small acts. In that gentle framework, people can go about their days with a quiet confidence, knowing that there is order and care in the background. Gardens are tended in this slow light, each plant kept with patient hands. Water is measured, soil is turned, and each seed is placed with care. Watching a garden mature teaches the mind about patience and timing. Some things require only steady attention, while others need more rest or shelter. The gardener's wisdom is in understanding cycles, in knowing when to nourish and when to leave growth alone. It is a lesson in humility as well, recognizing that many factors are beyond immediate control. Yet careful tending can guide possibilities toward gentle flourishing. In quiet workshops, new ideas are tested like small tools on a table. No grand pronouncements are needed. A simple trial, an alteration, a small success, and a slow adjustment lead to better forms. Learning is not a rush or a single reveal. It is an attunement to feedback, a listening that refines motions. The mind that embraces this approach becomes steady and sure. It learns to value small, honest trials and the humility of improving by degrees. This steady method makes knowledge practical and trustworthy, like well-honed instruments stored for the next task. When ships are prepared for the sea, there is a calm ritual to it. Lines are checked, sails folded, and stores counted. The captain and the crew move with the assurance of practiced habits. Strategy for their journey is a quiet map of possibilities, an awareness of currents, and a respect for wind and tide. There is no recklessness, only considered readiness. The sea itself becomes an instructor in patience, demonstrating that momentum and timing matter. In traveling with caution and skill, the voyage becomes an exercise in sustained attention and measured courage. Conversations with young learners are gentle and patient. Questions are met with kind clarity, and answers are given like tokens to be examined rather than trophies to be won. Teaching here is not about imposing knowledge, but about inviting curiosity and giving space for thought to deepen. There is a slow joy in watching understanding settle in like morning light. The teacher's voice remains steady, calm, and encouraging, supporting the learner as they find their own small steps toward truth. The sound of footsteps on a marble floor echoes softly, each footfall measured and even. It becomes a rhythm to match the breath. In that measured motion, the mind learns to pace itself. Each decision is then made with a sense of proportion. The world need not be mastered all at once. Instead, life is a series of intentional, paced moves that gradually reveal a pattern. That pattern is not loud or flashy. It is quiet, reliable, and sustaining. There is an appreciation for symmetry and proportion, not as mathematical abstractions, but as practical guides to harmony. Buildings rise because proportions are respected. Bridges hold because balance is maintained. The same care applies to thoughts and relationships. When proportion is kept in mind, actions fit their context and are less likely to cause imbalance. This balance encourages a steady life where duties and pleasures, work and rest are arranged in a way that supports continued well-being. Quiet reflection often takes place near running water. The sound of a brook is steady and unremarkable, yet its presence soothes and clarifies. Watching water flow teaches about adaptation and persistence. Water moves around obstacles without anger, finding new courses and wearing down resistance in time. It offers a model of endurance that is patient and creative. In learning from water, one understands that persistence need not be forceful. It can be gentle, continuous, and ultimately transformative. The night sky appears like a map of faint, knowing lights. Stars do not hurry. They simply are, guiding with steady presence. Looking up calms the mind and provides perspective. Small worries become less pressing when seen against the wide, unmoving backdrop of the heavens. Strategy here is to take the long view, to remember that many troubles are temporary and that time itself reshapes much. An untroubled gaze upwards fosters humility and a readiness to act with careful thought rather than impulsive emotion. In quiet marketplaces, exchanges happen with polite ease. Bargains are made through measured words and fair gestures. There is a rhythm to commerce here that values reputation and steady relations. Trust is built through consistent behavior more than through grand promises. Each fair transaction lays another stone in a stable foundation. Over time, a culture of steady reciprocity emerges, making life calmer and more predictable for everyone. This slow trust is a kind of social wisdom that keeps communities healthy and well aligned. The practice of listening remains central to all that is done. Listening is not merely hearing words, but sensing the spaces between them, noticing small ticks and pauses, and letting silence speak. In silence, many truths appear unobtrusively. Learning to listen deeply makes action wiser and more compassionate. It allows decisions to arise from understanding rather than from quick reactions. This listening is like tuning an instrument. Small adjustments lead to harmonious sound, and the result soothes those nearby. There is a soft delight in simple inventions that ease life, a new hinge that closes a door smoothly, or a wheeled cart that reduces strain, are small gifts of practical wisdom. Innovation here is not flashy but subtle, focused on reducing friction and improving daily flow. Each improvement encourages slow progress, making the ordinary days more graceful. This kind of creativity blends curiosity with restraint, ensuring that change serves human comfort and steadiness. Law is shaped like a careful garden fence rather than an impenetrable wall. It marks boundaries that protect tender growth and keep the larger communal space safe. Laws that are thoughtful and fair invite cooperation. When rules align with human needs, people can move freely within a trusted space. The presence of such measured order reduces anxiety and cultivates calm. The community flourishes not through force, but through agreed patterns that support shared flourishing. There is a gentle pedagogy in the way elders speak to younger people, offering stories that carry moral shapes rather than commands. Stories are like slow rivers that carry small stones of understanding. Over time, these stones smooth sharp edges in the mind and ground action in experience. Teaching through narrative allows listeners to internalize principles at their own pace. Wisdom transmitted in this way becomes practical and embodied. It lives in decisions made calmly, in hands that know how to mend, and in voices that know when to be quiet. The sound of a loom in the background is a kind of meditative metronome. Threads are pulled, patterns are formed, and the cloth emerges through steady repetition. The weaver does not rush. Each thread's placement matters. This art is another expression of patient strategy. Small, consistent motions creating something coherent and useful. Observing such work teaches the value of attention to small details. A long, beautiful cloth is the reward of persistent, attentive labor, not of frantic effort. Trade routes are traced with careful thought about seasons and the needs of travelers. Merchants learn to plan for weather and to carry supplies that matter. Preparation is a slow art, about foreseeing likely needs and building contingency gently. The practice reduces risk and brings calm to those who journey. When planning is done without haste, the journey itself becomes less fearful. It becomes a measured experience where comfort can be found in preparation and in the quiet companionship of others who travel with similar care. Quiet festivals celebrate craft and counsel without fanfare. People gather to share food and to watch measured performances that honor steady virtues. Joy is present, but it is tempered with dignity and restraint. Songs are gentle and measured, and dances unfold in recurring patterns that are easy to follow. These celebrations remind the community of their shared values, anchoring them in a calm, recurring rhythm. They offer rest from daily demands and reinforce the quiet habits that support long, stable lives. The art of defense, when considered here, resembles building a shelter rather than preparing for war. It focuses on preservation and protection, on crafting barriers that keep warmth and safety inside. The emphasis is on preventing harm through wise structure and observation rather than on seeking confrontation. This approach to safety is another facet of strategy. Anticipate gentle threats and prepare sensible precautions. By doing so, one cultivates a peaceful life where people can sleep with a sense of steadiness and protection. An appreciation for craftsmanship extends to music, where simple melodies are favored over ornate flourishes. Tunes are slow and clear, made to soothe rather than to startle. Instruments are tended, and notes are chosen with a careful ear for balance. Music becomes a vehicle for calm, a pattern that can steady the mind after a long day. It teaches that beauty can be quiet, and that refinement often lies in restraint. Gentle music supports restful thought and invites the listener to relax into the present. Maps are drawn with care, not to dominate, but to help travelers remember landmarks and decide gently among options. They contain markers of safe water, of restful shelters, and of predictable terrain. A map in this style values accuracy over grandeur, offering the calm information needed to plan well. In shaping thoughts, such a map becomes a metaphor for structured thinking, clear, unadorned, and oriented toward practical movement. It reduces anxiety by making the unseen known, and thereby allowing decisions to be made with measured confidence. Cooking is another act of measured love. Ingredients are selected for balance and simmered slowly until flavors settle. The cook tastes and adjusts, adding a pinch here, a slow stir there. Meal preparation becomes an exercise in patience and care. The practice of cooking this way teaches that nourishment can be calm and deliberate, that attention to detail yields comfort, and that small adjustments can make a meal wholesome and sustaining. Eating then becomes a contemplative act, a moment to absorb quiet warmth. The language of architecture in this place is modest and enduring. Buildings are designed to last, to shelter without pretense, and to hold within them the rhythms of daily life. Roof lines are simple, doorways wide enough for ease, and rooms arranged for good light and ventilation. Such design rests on practical wisdom and on the recognition that comfort and utility are forms of beauty. Thoughtfully constructed spaces encourage calm living, making it easier for people to carry out their small tasks with ease and dignity. The idea of mentorship here is gentle and consistent. A seasoned hand guides a younger one with small corrections and patient demonstration. The mentor does not command, but models and invites imitation. Progress is slow, observed, and celebrated in quiet ways. This method encourages humility and steady improvement. Learning becomes less about proving oneself and more about joining a lineage of practiced habits. That lineage sustains communities through time, preserving skills and values that mature with each careful repetition. Patterns of resting are respected, understanding that the mind and body need measured pauses to integrate effort. Sleep is treated as necessary work, where recovery happens and lessons settle into quiet memory. Rhythms of waking, labor, and rest are arranged to honor natural cycles. By aligning daily life with these softer rhythms, people find that stress is reduced and decisions become clearer. There is a slow wisdom in recognizing limits and honoring the need to replenish oneself. Symbols and emblems are used sparingly, chosen for clarity and meaning rather than for show. They serve as reminders of shared principles, steadiness, fairness, and careful thought. When symbols are humble and direct, they become anchors for behavior, gently nudging people toward considered action. This restrained use of symbolism helps keep attention focused on practice rather than on idle admiration. In quiet debates, voices remain even and measured. Points are stated calmly, and rebuttals are given with patience. The goal is not victory, but mutual understanding. When dialogue is held with such temperance, it becomes a refining tool, polishing rough ideas into clearer forms. This way of conversing fosters a culture of reasoned thought and compassionate engagement, where conclusions emerge from shared scrutiny rather than from loud assertion. The long view is always present, a patient sense that systems unfold over time. Choices are evaluated not only for immediate effect, but also for their gentle, ongoing contribution. This temporal awareness tempers impulse and encourages planning that will benefit many tomorrows. It is a compassionate strategy that values future comfort as much as present convenience, and that slow assessment helps form decisions that last. There is a continual practice of making small repairs, tending to frayed edges before they become larger problems. This attention to maintenance keeps structures and relationships in a steady state of health. The habit of early care reduces suffering and preserves resources. In life, this manifests as gentle attentiveness to feelings, to obligations, and to communal ties. Such carefulness supports a tranquil continuity that carries through seasons. Skilled hands teach the value of sensible limitation, showing that restraint often produces better work than excess. A potter who resists adding too much ornament allows the shape to speak, and the result is harmonious. The principle holds across crafts and choices. Moderation often yields clarity and durability. Practicing restraint is not denying pleasure. It is choosing a quiet satisfaction that does not need constant amplification. There is an ongoing attention to the balance between thought and feeling. Reason without warmth can be cold. Feeling without thought can be swept away. In this steady practice, both are held in balance. Decisions arise from a blended clarity where compassion and analysis inform each other. This integration produces actions that are considerate, effective, and calming to those involved. Small rituals mark transitions of the day, offering gentle punctuation rather than sharp breaks. Morning activities begin with preparation, midday with measured labor, and evening with quiet reflection. These rituals scaffold a life of predictability and ease, and they help the mind rest by creating spaces where tasks are contained and expected. The orderly progression of time becomes a comforting structure rather than an anxiety-inducing calendar. The pace of life here is intentionally unhurried, not from indolence, but from the recognition that haste often undoes work. Slow movement conserves energy and allows refinement. Each task receives proper attention, and the accumulation of such attention builds a resilient, graceful life. That resilience is the product of many small, thoughtful acts, performed with humility and steady hands. Night settles gently as a slow blanket, and the familiar practices of the day soothe the mind toward rest. The spaces are tended, tools are put away, and conversations soften. A steady presence remains, watching over the ordinary with untroubled care, inviting the ear and heart to follow a calm, continuous rhythm. There is a gentle rhythm to careful thought, like the slow turning of a spindle in a quiet room. Thoughts unwind and settle into patterns that are easy to follow. Each idea rests beside another, like stones along a gentle path. Walking that path requires no haste. The steps are measured, steady, and soft, as if the ground itself listens and welcomes the footfall. In such calm, small decisions find their place, and larger ones unfold with a patient clarity. Breathing becomes a steady metronome, and each inhale and exhale carries with it a subtle sense of direction that does not demand action, only attention. A soft light moves across a wide, open room. It reveals surfaces that are smooth and surfaces that are worn by time. The worn parts hold stories without fuss. The smooth parts reflect back a gentle patience, like water that barely trembles. When the light pauses on an object, that object seems to breathe. Its edges soften. Its purpose is not shouted, but hums quietly, a simple and true tone. There is comfort in this stillness, a steadying sensation, as if every element in the space knows its place and allows the mind to rest into the quiet order. Consider the way a map is drawn, not with hurried lines, but with careful ink and steady hands. Each border, each path is traced with attention. The map does not rush the traveler. It offers choices that are visible and calm. A path may curve gently around a hill. Another may follow the slow bank of a river. The colors are muted. The names are small. A map like this asks only that the eye move slowly and the feet follow with ease. The mind can rest in the quiet certainty that each route holds its own quiet wisdom, and none must be chosen in a state of hurry. In quiet company, a single bowl of olives sits on a low table. The bowl is simple and plain. It is enough. Its presence asks nothing and gives its small comfort without loudness. One olive is picked up between two fingers. It is felt for its weight, its skin, the tiny give of its flesh. Such small attentions are a kind of study. They teach how to receive without forcing, how to consider without deciding immediately. The hand that lifts the olive moves slowly, and that slowness becomes a lesson in patience, in the way small things reveal larger truths if one only waits to notice. There is a loom in a narrow corner, set against a wall, where light falls just enough to show the threads. The threads are long and varied, some darker, some light. They cross and meet in patterns that are not rushed. The weaver's hands move with a gentle certainty, patient and deliberate. Each crossing is a small decision that builds toward a whole. The pattern does not demand attention. It grows. In watching such work, one learns that complexity can arise from quiet repetition. The mind, like a hand at a loom, learns to move in gentle rhythm, making choices that are small and sure. When thinking of strategy, consider a garden laid out with simple beds. Each bed holds a small family of plants that prosper because they are placed with care and restraint. The gardener tends to spacing, to shade, to the slow needs of each root. There is no hurry to force growth. Instead, attention is given day by day, and the beds respond. Strategy is like this tending, a series of mindful acts that shape the space without strain. The strongest growth comes from consistent care, small interventions that respect the natural pace of things. In this way, plans unfold with ease. The sound of distant waves is soft and steady. Each wave comes and goes with a gentle insistence, erasing a little of the sand and leaving a new edge behind. The edge is not permanent. It shifts with patient regularity. Watching this teaches a kind of strategic patience, a recognition that influence can be gentle and persistent rather than loud and forceful. The shore changes slowly in response. This change is not sudden. It is the result of many tiny actions over time. Such awareness invites calm decisions, ones that accept the slow work of shaping over time. A small owl rests in shadow, its head slightly turned, listening without haste. It does not rush to make a noise. Its gaze is quiet and attentive. In that stillness, there is a gentle presence that holds space without filling it. Observation without interference reveals far more than sudden action. The owl's patience is a simple teaching: to wait with attention, to let insight come to you as naturally as the night comes to dusk. There is a soft dignity in waiting, a trust that clarity will arrive when conditions are right. Soft footsteps move along a marble corridor, each step measured and unhurried. The sound echoes in a way that is neither harsh nor thin. It is simply itself, a reminder that movement through space can be both deliberate and gentle. Passing an open doorway, one may notice a vase with a single branch, its leaves arranged with care. Such minimal choices create a feeling of balance and thoughtfulness. The corridor itself becomes an exercise in composed movement, an invitation to proceed with attention that is steady and calm, neither distracted nor strained. Light often falls through a high window onto a small table scattered with books. The books rest, page against page, quiet and unassuming. Their covers are soft to the touch. When a hand opens one, the pages unfold with care, revealing sentences that do not hurry the reader. They are measured, calm, and contemplative. Reading such lines is like walking in a shaded grove. One moves slowly and lets each sentence be a stone to step upon. The mind is invited to linger, to feel the texture of each idea, and to let understanding grow without pressure. A breeze passes through a courtyard filled with potted herbs. The scent is mild, not overwhelming. Parsley, mint, and thyme mingle in a way that is easy to breathe. The herbs sway with the breath of the air, and the motion is slow, forthcoming, forgiving. It is possible to sit and simply notice the plants as they move. Their sway suggests the gentle adjustments that are often most effective. Small change can be enough. It need not be dramatic. The herbs adapt and continue, offering a quiet lesson in the value of tender care over forceful measures. Consider a small bowl of water, so still that the surface acts like a mirror. When a single leaf drops into it, ripples spread outward with a soft economy. The ripples are measured and predictable. They do not scatter wildly. They serve as a gentle reminder that every action creates an effect. But those effects can be calm and limited if the action is thoughtful. The leaf does not try to change the water. It simply rests upon it and lets the movement pass. This quiet interaction teaches that gentle influence often produces balanced and lasting change. In a quiet courtyard, a stone bench invites slow conversation with oneself. The body settles, and the breathing finds an easy cadence. Thoughts may come like small birds, pause, and then fly on. There is no force to hold them, no need to chase. Allowing this gentle movement cultivates inner space. Within that space, one can consider choices in a measured way. Questions may be asked softly and answered by the quiet within. This inner bench becomes a place of calm reflection, a harbor for thoughts that arrive and depart without urgency. A tapestry hangs on a wall, made of muted threads and careful design. It tells no loud story. It suggests rhythms and relations with a composed tone. Looking at it teaches a kind of appreciation for subtlety. The pattern is not immediately clear. It requires attentive eyes and a willingness to accept the slow reveal of detail. In such observation, there is a patient unfolding of understanding, a recognition that not all meaning must be immediate. Some truths are best known by watching how parts relate over time. A quiet path leads up a gentle rise, bordered by low shrubs that sway slightly with a hush of wind. The climb is soft and gradual. It does not demand a race. Each step offers a small change in view, a new angle on the same scene. As the ascent continues, the mind learns to adjust its focus incrementally. Strategy, here, is like choosing the next step that feels right and steady. The goal is not to reach a peak quickly, but to move in ways that honor the body and the surrounding space. This kind of measured movement nurtures clear thought. In a small room, a single lamp casts a warm pool of light onto a table where a chessboard rests. The pieces are simple, worn at the edges from many games played slowly. The board itself is a map of possibilities. Each piece moves within its known ways. And yet the unfolding of the board depends on quiet, considered choices. The most effective moves are often those that support a larger pattern rather than seek immediate triumph. The patient arrangement of pieces speaks to a form of wisdom that prefers steady accumulation of advantage over sudden force. A quiet river turns around a bend, holding reflections of sky and the tree on its surface. The current is not rapid. It moves with a steady, dependable flow. Stones beneath the water direct its course with subtle authority, but the river does not resist. It adapts and continues. Observing this lends a view of strategy as harmonizing with the natural course of things. The best path sometimes follows the flow, making adjustments where necessary, but not attempting to command the entire stream. This yielding is a form of strength. There is a small mirror framed in simple wood, placed at the edge of a windowsill. Looking into it offers a soft encounter with oneself. The reflection is honest but kind. It does not push for change or pronounce judgment. Instead, it invites a gentle awareness of what is present. Such honest seeing is a foundation for thoughtful action. Knowing oneself in quiet terms allows for choices that come from clarity rather than from impatience. In that clarity, strategy becomes a calm application of knowledge rather than a hurried attempt to prove something. A slow, steady flame burns in a modest lamp, the light warm and focused. It does not blaze, nor does it flicker wildly. It simply provides a steady glow. When one sits near this light, the shadows soften and edges become less sharp. The mind, soothed by consistent glow, notices more subtle patterns and possibilities. Steadiness is a kind of guide. It shows how keeping a gentle light can reveal the path without startling the senses. This kind of patience is an ally for making decisions that are measured in time and in care. Leaves gather at the base of a statue, carried by a breeze, and arranged with a natural carelessness that is not actually careless. Their placement seems meaningful in a quiet way, as if the wind knows precisely how to lay them where they will rest. The accumulation of such small acts shapes the scene. Strategy can be like this wind, making many small, quiet gestures that together form something steady and purposeful. Each small act is a quiet offering to a larger pattern, and in their joining, there is a gentle power that does not shout to be noticed. A narrow bridge spans a shallow stream, its planks worn smooth by many footsteps. Crossing it demands no bravery, only attention. One step follows another, and soon the other side comes into view. The bridge is a reminder that transitions can be brief and simple when approached with calm. A measured pace carries one across without strain. The crossing itself becomes a meditation on the value of steady movement. The journey matters more than any rush to the other bank. In this way, thoughtful progress is a quiet accumulation of small, sure steps. A small bell rings once in the distance, a sound that declines into silence with a softness that is almost like a sigh. It does not startle. Instead, it draws the attention inward, nudging the mind to an inner ear. The echo of the bell is an invitation to listen to the slower rhythms that are always present. Strategy, in this light, can be understood as listening first and speaking only when sure. The gentle chiming suggests the importance of timing, of knowing when to move and when to remain still. On a table lies a simple scroll, its script written in careful strokes. Each line is deliberate, each margin respected. Reading it is an exercise in patience. The sentences do not hurry the reader, and the reader is invited to savor the rhythm of the words. There is wisdom in this measured writing, a sense that clarity emerges from careful arrangement. Plans benefit from such attention, as they become clear not through haste, but through thoughtful composition. This method lets ideas breathe and find their proper shape. A cup of tea cools on a low shelf, steam long since gone. The scent lingers faintly, a reminder of warmth that has passed but remains in memory. This passing is not loss. It is an illustration of how things change gently and how memory can hold their quiet essence. To plan with such perspective is to accept change as gradual and to create frameworks that honor time. One can be present without clutching, allowing warmth to leave and new warmth to be made, each in its proper season. A pair of sandals rests by a doorway, dusted with the soft residue of travel. They are simple, well used, and reliable. The sandals suggest a readiness to move, but without urgency. They are an invitation to walk slowly and with purpose. Strategy can be thought of as this readiness, as a preparedness that does not demand constant motion. It is a patient capacity to step forward when conditions are right. The sandals teach that comfort with stillness and readiness to move are companions in a thoughtful life. A single column in a quiet hall bears a faint pattern of vines carved into its surface. The carving is subtle and almost tender in its detail. Its presence brings a sense of continuity, of small artistry that persists through time. Such workmanship models a kind of attention that values refinement over spectacle. In careful work, small details accumulate into a lasting whole. The steady hand that carves does not hurry. It returns day after day, making delicate adjustments that, over time, reveal a composed and thoughtful design. A small flock of birds moves slowly across a pale sky, their formation shifting imperceptibly with the air. They are not hurried. Each bird responds to the others with gentle nudges and adjustments. The group moves as a living pattern, organized but unforced. Watching them is a lesson in cooperative movement. Strategy often involves aligning with others in a loose, respectful way, allowing the shared motion to emerge naturally. It is in such quiet cooperation that large changes can be made without loud commands or abrupt control. A basin of cool water sits at the foot of a garden statue. Dipping a hand into it wakes a soft sensation, a tender surprise. The touch is brief and unhurried, an acknowledgement of the present moment. In that small contact, the mind receives a gentle reminder of the value of pause. Decisions made from that pause are clearer. A strategy born from calm contact with the present is rooted in observation rather than speculation. This simple act of touching water teaches the power of returning to what is immediate and real. Candles arranged along a narrow path cast a soft illumination that guides without glare. The light is low and forgiving, making shadows that are long and smooth. Walking among them, one feels a sense of safe passage. The path is not hurried. It encourages a pace that is attentive and steady. Strategy in this light is like following a softly lit path, where each step is chosen for its steadiness and quiet beauty. The journey becomes a practice in gentle navigation, appreciating the small lights that mark the way. A small bellows rests near a forge that is only occasionally used. When it is needed, it is employed with measured breaths that feed the flame. The bellows itself does not demand constant use. It awaits the right moment and then acts with gentle efficacy. There is wisdom in such readiness to have the capacity for change and to apply it carefully at the right time. Strategy benefits when resources are preserved and deployed with thought rather than wasted in impulsive bursts that do not respect rhythm. A careful hand traces the grain of a wooden tabletop, noticing its lines and knots. The touch is slow and reverent, as if reading a soft, quiet script. The wood tells of seasons and small events, none of which shout. In such listening, there is a lesson about history and context. Understanding grows from patient observation of what has already been formed. Plans that honor the past while attending to the present are balanced. They do not ignore what has been while they shape what may be. A thin fog rests over a low marsh at dawn, softening colors and muffling sounds. Movement within the fog is tentative and graceful. Shapes appear and disappear with a gentle uncertainty that is not alarming. The fog invites caution and gentle exploration. Strategy embraced here is one of gradual revelation, of moving forward with senses open and expectations quiet. One learns to feel the ground with careful steps, to trust slow discovery. In this manner, clarity emerges as the fog lifts of its own pace. A cup of warm broth sits in simple porcelain, steam rising in the cool morning. Its warmth is modest and comforting. Taking it slowly, sip by sip, allows the body to notice and respond kindly. Such small care is a form of strategy, attending to the basics so that greater tasks are possible. The humble act of nourishing oneself becomes an emblem of steady preparation. It reminds that grand undertakings are supported by many small, caring routines. A low stone wall curves around a small orchard. Its stones fit together with patience and minimal fuss. The wall does not call attention to itself, yet it holds and protects gently. Its construction is an exercise in restraint and practical beauty. Each stone is laid with care, and the whole remains stable because of those many small placements. A strategy expressed through such craft values slow, careful work over momentary show. Strength achieved this way is quiet and enduring. A lantern hangs from a branch, its light swinging subtly in the evening breeze. The motion is slow and rhythmic, soothing rather than jostling. The lantern's glow does not demand attention, yet it gives a steady presence that comforts the eyes and eases the mind. In quiet strategy, such supportive elements provide light without commanding it. They are aids to thought and movement, gentle companions that help keep the path visible without forcing it. A pair of hands fold cloth with deliberation, smoothing and aligning each edge. The fold is methodical and unhurried. The hands work in a rhythm that is almost like breath. Inhale, move, settle. In this practice, there is pride in care rather than in speed. The outcome is orderly and serene. Strategy often resembles such folding, arranging, aligning, reserving energy so that when the moment comes, things are ready without frenzy. The slow practice cultivates composure. A sparrow hops along a low branch, pausing between movements, attentive to small sounds. It does not make grand motions. Each hop is a careful adjustment. Observing it teaches that small, attentive steps can be exactly what is needed. Quick leaps sometimes scatter more than they gather. The sparrow's way is one of small corrections, of moving in response rather than in reaction. In that measured attentiveness, there is a quiet effectiveness that minimizes risk and preserves balance. A narrow bookshelf holds volumes with spines that vary in tone and texture. The titles are modest, and many pages show the soft thumb marks of slow reading. Taking a book from the shelf to open it is an invitation to enter a measured world. The stories and ideas within unfold at a pace that allows the mind to rest in the cadence of the sentences. Strategy in such reading is akin to absorbing lessons patiently, taking them into small, steady use, rather than clamoring for immediate application. An old key rests on a tray, simple and unadorned. It is kept in a safe place, its purpose known but not demanded. Having a key is a quiet assurance, a readiness that does not need to announce itself. Strategy often involves keeping such quiet capacities at hand, prepared to unlock possibilities when the right moment comes. The key itself is small, but it holds potential that is realized only through thoughtful timing. A slow rain begins to fall upon a tiled roof, its sound a soft percussion that calms the ear. Each drop is separate, but together they make a continuous hush. The rain does not rush the world. It softens and cools, encouraging plants to breathe and soil to drink. Watching rain teaches patience and the trust that nourishment arrives in time. Strategy may mirror this, distributing small, steady influences that support growth rather than imposing abrupt demands. A quiet clock marks the passage of hours with a single, unobtrusive tick. It does not demand attention, but it offers a steady measure of time that helps shape a calm day. Planning with such a clock is an exercise in gentle pacing. One does not cram too much into a short span, nor does one idle without purpose. The clock supports a rhythm that is steady and humane, a reminder that time is best spent in measured increments of attention. A faded banner hangs in a study, its colors softened by years of sun and gentle handling. The emblem upon it is simple and clear, a symbol of guidance rather than of conquest. Its presence offers a subtle orientation, a reminder to act with consideration and restraint. In this way, symbols can be quiet teachers, guiding choices without shouting. Their presence helps maintain a consistent tone of thought that favors balance and thoughtful application over impulsive force. A single pebble is balanced upon a larger stone at the edge of a pool. Its placement is careful, not precarious, a slow practice of fitting pieces together. The small act of balancing is patient and intentional. It suggests that order can be created through attentive gestures that respect weight and proportion. Strategy benefits from such careful assembly, placing small supports where they will sustain larger endeavors in a way that feels natural and enduring. A soft scarf is draped over the back of a chair, its fold deliberate and gentle. It suggests thoughtfulness in small comforts. The scarf does not proclaim its usefulness. It simply exists, ready when needed. Such small preparations are the quiet scaffolding of larger plans. They make it possible to move through a day or a task with a reserve of calm resources. This readiness is not urgency. It is a mindful provision. A modest pen rests beside a blank sheet, waiting, The pen is not hurried to write. It sits with patience, ready when thought settles into form. The blank sheet is not intimidating. It is a space that invites gentle consideration and careful drafting. Writing in this mood becomes an act of shaping rather than of spilling. Ideas take their time to arrange themselves on the page, and the act of putting them down becomes another form of slow, deliberate strategy. A low door opens onto a small courtyard where the air holds the coolness of early evening. The space invites slow movement and relaxed presence. In such moments, decisions are not forced. They emerge from a mind that is given room to breathe and to notice. Strategy born in such evenings is informed by observation, by a calm assessment of resources, and by a mindful sense of timing. Choices made in this relaxed way tend to sustain rather than deplete. A delicate pattern is stitched into a piece of cloth, each stitch placed with steady care. The hand performing this work does not rush. It values the slow rhythm of repetition. Over time, the stitches build an image that is graceful and restrained. This process reminds that patient, repetitive effort yields refinement. Strategic work that honors such rhythm accumulates small strengths that eventually form a resilient whole. There is a quiet satisfaction in watching the pattern grow. A narrow path lined with smooth stones leads into a thicket of low trees. The path is not crowded, and it welcomes a single walker at an unhurried pace. As the walker moves, attention rests on small sounds and the gentle play of light through leaves. This mindful travel is itself a practice in strategy, choosing the pace and direction with steady care. The slow exploration allows one to notice resources along the way and to decide with a calm center rather than with a hurried urge. A small ink pot sits beside a carefully folded letter, its seal waiting to be affixed. The act of sealing is deliberate, a considered conclusion to a patient process. The letter itself is composed with measured words, chosen for clarity and kindness. Strategy expressed through such communication is quiet and thoughtful, preferring clarity and restraint over grand gestures. The seal is not meant to force, but to preserve the careful thought within until the right moment presents itself. A faint constellation is drawn across a clear night, stars arranged with a soft, patient order. Looking up at that gentle pattern encourages a wide and calm perspective. Small concerns find their place within a larger, steady sky. Strategy benefits from this expansive view, from the ability to see how many small elements relate and form a broader picture. From that vantage, choices are less frantic and more considered. A small wooden chest sits under a bed, its lid closed, and its contents known to the careful owner. The chest is a quiet promise of resources that can be used when needed. It is not extravagant, but it is sufficient. To plan with such reserves is to practice prudence. The chest does not tempt with immediate consumption. It offers preparedness and respect for the future. Strategy that holds reserves understands the value of pacing and of keeping something back for when it will do the most good. A soft breeze stirs a thin curtain, causing it to ripple in slow waves. The motion is gentle and soothing, an invitation to slow the pace of thought. Watching the curtain teaches about subtle influence. A small movement changed by small forces can be steady and graceful. In strategy, recognizing the effect of tiny nudges can lead to more sustainable change than loud, abrupt gestures. The curtain's slow wave is a reminder to rely on gentle influence when the circumstances allow. A quiet lamp at the far end of a table casts a narrow beam that highlights a single page. The rest of the room remains in soft shadow. This selective light helps focus attention without overwhelming the senses. When planning, such focus can be useful. Attend closely to one matter at a time, rather than scattering effort everywhere. The focused light shows how calm concentration can illuminate what matters most without creating strain. A field of low grass bends uniformly in a soft wind, forming patterns that move like a slow sea. The uniform sway is rhythmic and calming, a vast, coordinated movement without urgency. Observing this gives a sense of communal rhythm. How many small elements can move together in silent harmony? Strategy that values such harmony seeks alignment rather than discord. It recognizes the benefit of gentle coordination and the peace that comes from shared, steady motion. A single candle is placed in a shallow pool of clay, its flame small and unwavering. Its light is steady, making small shadows that seem to breathe. The candle represents a simple, controlled source of warmth and clarity. It does not pretend to be more than it is. In strategy, modest, consistent sources of light can guide without dazzling. They sustain steady work and illuminate the steps ahead in a way that feels safe and reliable. A narrow journal lies open, its pages filled with small, neat entries that record simple observations and small plans. The handwriting is calm and regular. Each entry is a moment of attention. Over time, the collection of entries grows into a quiet archive of measured thought. Strategy practiced in such a journal is incremental, folding small lessons into larger patterns. The process is not dramatic, but it is steady and dependable, a slow accumulation of clarity. A small flute rests on a windowsill, its tones soft when played in the hush of evening. The notes that emerge are simple and unadorned, each one allowed to finish before the next begins. Music played in such a way soothes rather than excites. It models an approach to decisions that values completion and thoughtful pacing. Each note has room to be heard, and each choice is given space to settle before moving on. A shallow bowl of fresh fruit sits near a low couch, bright but not flashy. The fruit invites thoughtful eating, savoring one piece at a time. Such small pleasures become a practice in moderation and appreciation. Strategy is strengthened by these small rituals that supply steady nourishment without excess. The act of savoring cultivates attention and gratitude, which in turn support wiser decisions over time. A set of scales rests on a low shelf, balanced and calm. They are simple, and the act of weighing is quiet and deliberate. Putting an object on a scale requires no haste. There is a patient pause while the balance settles, an acceptance that clarity takes its time. This slow weighing teaches that good judgment often follows measured consideration rather than immediate impulse. The balanced scales remind one to weigh options with calm attention, A shallow pool reflects the sky with a clarity that is almost tender. Looking into it, one sees the slow movement of clouds mirrored and magnified. The reflection teaches that internal states often mirror the outside world. Calm within begets a clearer view without. Strategy formed in such clarity is less reactive and more compliant with reason. The pool's steady reflection is a quiet ally for thoughtful plans. A delicate wreath of small leaves is laid upon a table, its circle unbroken. The wreath suggests completion and continuity, a reminder that many small things can be arranged to make a whole. In planning, such arrangements of small, thoughtful choices create a durable pattern. The wreath does not demand attention, but it speaks of quiet cohesion, of the way modest elements bind together to form something calm and graceful. A low hill offers a gentle view of the surrounding valley. Standing there, one can see paths and fields, hedgerows, and low roofs. The panorama is broad and soft, providing context without pressure. From this vantage point, decisions can be made with an awareness of relationships and timing. Strategy here is about situating choices within a wider frame, acknowledging that every move affects the landscape gently over time. The view encourages modesty and patience. She moves through quiet thought as if moving through a slow, gentle river. Each notion is a pebble that sinks without splash. Each idea settles into soft sediment. Calm attention waits like a shore. The mind follows the curve of a thought and lets it rest. There is no hurry. There is only steady, patient care. Quiet wisdom lives in the spaces between things, where breath lengthens and the heart measures time by soft steps. Even the smallest decision is a careful turning, a measured hand. The movement is deliberate and gentle, like the soft turning of seasons in a long, patient place. The night keeps company with simple truths. A steady pattern guides hands that mend and shape. The rhythm of a loom, slow and even, becomes a way to think. Threads cross and hold. Weaving is a thinking done slowly. Each pass under and over is a choice made without haste. Patterns emerge that hold weight and light. The quiet craft makes order where there might have been disorder. The labor is soft and untroubled. Thoughts align like threads, finding their place. Pattern and patience move together, and the mind learns to rest in that movement. Strategy is like a path through a wide field. The path is not forced. It grows where careful feet have walked, where small choices have made a course. Wisdom notices the ground and the wind. Wisdom knows when to pause and when to continue. The steady eye sees not only what is near, but also what lies a few steps ahead. There is room for foresight that is calm, not urgent. The world opens in slow ways to those who wait. Each small plan is crafted with soft hands. The shape of a day is laid down gently, like stones placed for a quiet crossing. She watches over small acts of courage that are quiet and sustained. Courage need not be loud. It can be the soft voice that continues, the steady hand that persists. The brave thing is often simple. It is the work done day after day. It is the care offered without calculation. Those small repeated acts make a life. They form a pattern like repeated stitches in a fabric. The greater shape appears slowly. The world is built from these gentle, enduring pieces. Nothing is wasted. Each small kindness is part of a larger design that unfolds without haste. The owl glides without sound, an image of calm awareness. Seeing at night does not rush. It listens with patience and watches with care. The quiet watcher gathers what is needed and releases what is not. There is wisdom in gentle observation. To see clearly is to let things reveal themselves. The quiet gaze bears no weight of judgment. It rests in the present, steady and still. In that stillness, insight comes like a soft light. No thunder heralds the arrival. The mind opens like a slowly rising moon, and understanding grows in the gentle glow. The olive tree grows in quiet strength, its roots deep and patient. It breathes slowly, season by season, storing the sun in its fibers. The fruit comes without hurry, in its own measured time. To tend such a tree is to practice patient skill. One prunes with gentle hands. One waits for the slow return. The tree offers shade and oil, small gifts produced by steady being. Wisdom often resembles such steady growth. It accumulates without noise. It becomes reliable, sheltering, ready to be offered when the moment calls. Quiet generosity arrives without demand or flourish. In quiet rooms, ideas are shaped like clay in careful hands. The touch is soft and persistent. The maker presses and smooths and listens to the material. There is a conversation between hand and clay. The mind learns from that conversation. It learns how to form without forcing, how to let the material teach its limits and its possibilities. The best work comes from gentle dialogue. Thought and action meet in an honest exchange. This meeting is neither rushed nor obstinate. It unfolds with respect and patience, and small adjustments guide the piece towards balance. The city changes as people move with quiet purpose. Stone by stone, street by street, small decisions lay the way. The planners think in terms of shelter and ease. They consider light, wind, and the passage of time. Their designs are modest in their intention, seeking comfort and clarity. A well-placed path, a steady shelter, a quiet market. These are acts of care. They are not meant to dazzle. They are meant to endure. The care that shapes a city is like the care that shapes thought. Practical, thoughtful, attentive to detail. Each small improvement ripples outward in gentle ways. The wisdom of counsel is patient and calm. It listens before it speaks. It offers suggestions without insistence. Advice, when given quietly, can be like a soft guide on a long road. The counsel that endures is not forceful. It is steady and considered. It helps others see their own steps more clearly. There is no rush in true counsel. It unfolds like a soft map, showing options without demand. The one who receives it may take what is useful and leave what is not. This gentle freedom respects the autonomy of others while offering a steady hand. War, when thought becomes necessary, is approached as an understanding of balance and care for life. The true strategist prefers to prevent harm rather than cause it. Strategy, in this sense, is a careful study of how to avoid needless conflict. It is the art of setting things so that harm is less likely. This art is quiet and precise. It pays attention to timing, to space, and to the smallest details. The aim is to protect what is dear, to shelter what can be sheltered, and to preserve peace where peace can be preserved. The methods are thoughtful, and measured. Symbols settle into the mind like steady anchors: a shield, an olive branch, an owl. These images are simple reminders of values. They are quiet prompts that help one remember to act with clarity and care. When one holds such symbols, one is gently guided back to calm principles. They act like small lighthouses in soft fog. When decision seems cloudy, a remembered image can bring focus. The mind returns to basics. The remembered shape is not a demand. It is a quiet nudge toward steadiness and thoughtfulness. In quiet drawing rooms, mentors teach not by loud instruction, but by careful demonstration. They show how to do small tasks well. They let practice be slow and steady. The best teaching is lived as an example. The learner watches how hands move, how choices are weighed, how time is respected. There is patience in repetition. Practice itself is meditative. Skill grows in unhurried layers. Each repeated movement refines the whole. There is comfort in the steady rhythm of learning. The body and the mind come into alignment through gentle, persistent work. Night offers a slow mirror for inner scenes. The stars are small, steady points that do not demand attention. They simply are. The mind can rest with them. To look at such a sky is to learn the value of small constancy. Each star suggests a tiny, unhurried presence. The greater pattern appears only with time. The heavens do not hurry. They reveal their shapes gradually. In that patience, the heart finds solace. Quiet constancy becomes a measure of trust. One learns to trust gradual things. The process of invention often resembles the careful tending of a garden. One plants a humble seed. One waters with steady care. One removes what would choke the new growth. There is no rush. The gardener watches for the right conditions. When the time is right, small changes come into view. A leaf unfolds, a bud appears, and then a flower. The craftsperson thinks in terms of seeds and seasons. Ideas require similar care. They need light, steady water, and time. New forms appear in their own rhythm when given gentle attention. Memory is like a dim room with slow light. Details come into focus only when attention lingers. Sudden recall is rare. Most knowing returns with gentle coaxing. The mind moves from one remembered image to another, softly, like a hand touching familiar cloth. Old lessons reappear when one is willing to wait. There is no force in recollection that lasts. It arrives when the mind is calm and allowed to wander in safe paths. Those who honor memory do so with patience and gentle attention. The sea of thought has tides that follow steady rigs. High and low come in due time. The wise do not struggle against the inevitable ebb. Instead, they use it. They plan with the tides in mind. They rest on the low shore and move with the returning wave. There is a rhythm to all movement. To resist the natural flow is to waste energy. To move with it, with subtle choice, is to conserve strength. The measured mind learns to ride these shifts with quiet grace. Small ceremonies hold meaning without fuss. A shared meal, a kind word, a fixed table. These acts are not flashy. They are gentle ways of binding people to one another. Ritual can be simple and nourishing. The regularity of such small acts brings a sense of structure. It lets people find their place in an otherwise shifting world. The ordinary becomes sacramental when performed with care. The mind settles into routine that is soft and dependable. A close study of craft shows that precision is a kind of kindness. To measure well is to save time later. A careful cut spares waste. A thoughtful stitch prevents tear. The practitioner learns to respect materials and to respect time. There is a quiet dignity in such care. The hands that work well move with a slow certainty. They do not hurry. They do not show off. They take pleasure in the small excellence of doing a thing properly. The result is calm and long-lasting. Judgment, when exercised with balance, listens more than it speaks. Decisions are weighed patiently. The scales tilt slowly until they find equilibrium. There is no need to rush a verdict. A fair judgment often requires time to notice all the small facts. The patient mind pairs compassion with firmness. It seeks to protect and to instruct. These aims are held together by steady thought. The outcome is not harsh. It is measured and humane. Stories teach through quiet repetition and simple images. When a tale is told slowly, its lessons percolate into the mind. The listener is not pushed. Instead, the listener becomes part of the slow unfolding. Each repeated motif becomes familiar, like a soft refrain. Lessons sink in, like warm water soaking into cloth. Understanding grows without the need for loud declaration. This gentle method nourishes the heart and steadies the will. The land responds to steady care. A path made for ease is used by many. A shelter built with attention stands through seasons. The small acts of tending soil, mending walls, and caring for water add up. The landscape remembers the hands that have shaped it. Over time, a place becomes hospitable. The slow accumulation of care is the truest form of guardianship. It protects those who live there without making a show. The rhythms of maintenance and respect bind a place to the people who inhabit it. Breath itself is a teacher of slow timing. When breath lengthens, thought softens. Calm breathing sets a pace that the mind can follow. Inhale and exhale in balanced measures. Each breath anchors awareness. It reminds one that even the smallest rhythm can steady larger movements. The body and mind sync in that ordinary loop. This simple practice is a foundation for clear thinking. It quiets the urge to hurry and invites a steadier course. Language, when chosen with care, helps to shape more than thought. Words are tools. Gentle words shape a soft landscape. Harsh words can cut like a sudden wind. Speaking slowly and simply allows meaning to rest. The listener can receive what is given and place it where it belongs. Silence between words offers space. The wise value that silence. It lets meaning sink into the listener's mind. Conversation becomes a shared weave of threads, each one placed with intention. Compassion is a slow practice. It grows from small acts of attention. To be compassionate is to notice the tiny burdens others carry and to act quietly and steadily to relieve them. It does not demand recognition. It does not seek reward. It simply moves with the patient aim of easing suffering where possible. This soft labor has no glare. Its value is revealed with time in the increased ease of those who find comfort. The mind that seeks to be useful thinks in terms of function and care. It asks what will be of help and what will not. The focus is modest. It is about doing what is necessary and making it reliable. Usefulness is not flashy, it is steady and discreet. The craftsman who seeks usefulness takes pleasure in the small success of a tool that fits the hand. The planner who values utility designs for ease and endurance. This measure of practicality is a quiet kind of wisdom. Harmony arises when parts are balanced without force. Each element is given space to perform. There is a gentle coordination rather than coercion. The careful observer makes small adjustments so that the whole works better. Harmony does not require everything to be the same. It requires a respectful fit. In this way, varied elements can support one another. The result is a calm, efficient arrangement that serves its purpose without strain. Reflection is a slow light turned inward. It is not about self-judgment, but about gentle noticing. One watches patterns of action and thought with a quiet curiosity. There is no rush to change. Instead, one notes and allows insight to arise. This reflective stance is kind. It permits gradual transformation. The person who practices it learns to adjust with thoughtfulness rather than with sudden force. Over time, habits soften and align in more helpful ways. Teaching the young is done with patient steps. The guide repeats small tasks until they are steady. Encouragement is gentle and steady, not loud or overbearing. The learner grows trust in the slow rhythm of practice. Confidence emerges from repeated, careful success. This steady growth builds a foundation that will support larger things later. The work of teaching is quiet and generous, a patient sharing of skill and attention. Silence itself can be rich and full. In quiet, many small truths can be heard. The hush is not emptiness. It is a field where subtle things arise. The attentive mind finds room to breathe. In that space, deeper understanding takes shape. Silence acts like a slow solvent that clears the mind of hurry. It is a deliberate absence that allows presence to be more complete. The restful mind gathers its resources and becomes ready to act with measured care. Artisanship values the slow progress of a hand at work. The maker takes pleasure in the small regularities of a craft. Each repetition refines form. The final object bears the marks of steady attention. It is not hurried or inflated. It is useful, true, and gentle. The soul of a craftsperson is revealed in the patience of the process. Such work invites the observer to slow down and appreciate the quiet labor that created it. Time, when measured by small, consistent acts, becomes generous. Decades of steady practice accumulate into deep skill. The passage of years is not a race. It is a sequence of small, meaningful steps. When one lives with slow intention, time gives back in quiet abundance. The long view prefers consistent care to urgent leaps. It rewards the gentle, methodical hand with results that last beyond the moment. The quiet ruler governs by steady arrangements rather than dramatic displays. Authority exercised with measured care keeps the peace. It sets clear expectations and maintains them with gentle firmness. Such rule is not oppressive. It is practical and humane. It creates conditions where people can flourish. The leader who governs this way is like a gardener who tends rows and waters roots. The growth that follows is steady and reliable. Hope, in its quiet form, is not a shout, but a soft leaning toward better days. It is a small trust in the process of careful tending. Hope grows When people act with patient care and when time is treated kindly, it is not blind. It recognizes difficulty and still proceeds with deliberate steps. This tempered hope helps people keep moving forward in ways that are sustainable and calm. Skillful endings are not abrupt. They are transitions handled with care. When one task completes, the next begins without tension. The closure is respectful of what came before. The mind acknowledges accomplishment and then gently steps into a new effort. This way of concluding small things keeps the spirit steady. It prevents sudden rupture and invites continuity. Curiosity, practiced without frantic searching, is a steady light that explores slowly. It asks soft questions and waits for patient answers. There is pleasure in noticing small differences and following them gently. The curious mind enjoys the slow uncovering of patterns and learns to be satisfied with gradual revelation. This manner of inquiry is calm and measured, freeing discovery from pressure and allowing understanding to mature at its own pace. The practice of balance is a daily, quiet effort. One adjusts little by little, shifting weight here and there to keep stability. This practice is not dramatic. It is a continuous, modest discipline. It teaches that equilibrium is maintained by many small corrections rather than by one grand action. Over time, this steady care makes stability more natural and less forced. The gentle strength that guides useful change is steady and patient. It does not unsettle without cause. It makes room for development while protecting the delicate parts of life. Strength and softness can coexist. When they do, motion becomes thoughtful rather than violent. Change that is slow and considerate tends to last. It honors what it alters and prepares what will follow. Small rituals of gratitude hold the day together. A quiet word of thanks, a remembered smile, a small acknowledgement of help, all preserve a soft network of care. These acts are not public displays. They are personal, intimate, and sustaining. The habit of gratitude helps the mind see value in the ordinary. It turns passing moments into a steady stream of appreciation that nourishes the heart. There is a deep pleasure in slow competence. To be capable through unhurried practice is to live with confidence that does not need to shout. This quiet assurance moves through life steadily. It enables calm decision and careful action. The person who bears it offers steadiness to others without claiming superiority. It is a humble confidence that rests in the slow accumulation of skill. Light spreads gently across familiar surfaces at the edge of night and day. That soft illumination helps the eye find comfort in known shapes. Shadows soften into familiar patterns. The mind relaxes as forms become recognizable without strain. This gentle clarity invites slow movement and thoughtful choices. It supports the simple work of living with calm attention. The path of steady wisdom is marked by repeated small choices. Each decision tends toward care and balance. The accumulation of these choices shapes a life that is useful and kind. There is no need for spectacle. Quiet consistency does the work that matters. The slow touch of these many small acts creates a presence that is both reliable and gentle, a soft, steady light on the long way forward. Soft thought rests on the slow motion, of an idea like a leaf falling through water. She moves with quiet attention. Each decision is gentle and deliberate. The mind that listens finds patterns like light on a slow river. In that light, there is no hurry. There is only the careful shaping of a moment. Breath follows breath. Thoughts are simple and measured. The steady rhythm becomes a kind companion. It does not demand anything. It simply keeps a presence that is calm and sure. The clarity that comes feels like a faint, cool light spreading across a still surface. Even and untroubled, the image of a steady hand tracing a line on clay is soft and tactile. Hands that build do so without noise. They know the weight of material. They know the time it will take. The process itself is enough. Decisions are not sudden. They are the result of small, thoughtful movements added together. Each movement is mindful. They shape form without force. In the quiet, the outline grows like a slow dawn. The work becomes a practice of quiet attention. There is a gentle skill in noticing what is there and responding calmly without haste or strain. There is comfort in measured cause and effect. A choice leads to a small change. A small change leads to another. Over time, a path emerges. The path is not a chase. It is a steady making. Strategy is like placing stones across a stream. Each stone is set with care. The crossing is not rushed. The movement across is calm. One step becomes the next. The mind that plans in this way is patient and clear. It sees the next stone. It feels the balance in each step. This quiet planning invites a sense of safety and quiet purpose. Consider a tree that grows by the sea, rooted and attentive to seasons. It does not force its branches. It bends and learns the angles of light and wind. Roots deepen slowly. Leaves open and close with patient rhythm. The tree's strength is not abrupt. It is earned through steady adaptation. In this steadiness, there is wisdom. The tree knows which branches will hold, which will bend, and which will let go. In time, the silhouette becomes familiar. It holds space. It becomes a shelter in a wide plain. The quiet growth of the tree teaches a peaceful kind of strategy, one that honors durability over haste. A quiet shield rests near a hearth, cool to the touch. It is carefully made and precisely balanced. It is not an object of aggression, but of measured protection. The craft that shaped it used many small decisions. Each tempering, each hammer strike, each smoothing edge was thoughtful and calm. The presence of such an object reminds the mind of skill applied with restraint. Strength need not be loud. It can be reserved, ready, and gentle in its readiness. There is a soft dignity in being prepared without show, a composed readiness that supports rest rather than stirring unrest. The careful bending of a bowstring is a gentle act of patience. A string must be steady to hold tension without snapping. The archer breathes with a slow, even rhythm. The aim is not hurried. The hand and the eye find a quiet agreement. The arrow becomes a quiet intention, released without forceful shout. It finds its mark simply because preparation was even and thoughtful. In this way, intent and action are balanced. A quiet mind knows when to steady and when to let go. The moment of release is calm and untroubled, like a soft exhale at the end of a long breath. Weaving is a slow conversation with thread. Patterns emerge when the weaver moves without haste. Each crossing of thread is a small decision. Color and form arrange themselves with patient attention. The textile grows, row by row, with a steady rhythm. The weaver does not force a pattern. The pattern is invited. A hand that works in this way learns to read the subtle feedback of material. This gentle listening becomes a kind of wisdom. It shows how careful repetition and attentive adjustment lead to enduring beauty, the kind that soothes as much as it serves. A small city sleeps under a sky that changes color with ease. Streets lie quiet and cool. Lamps glow low and steady. Walls and gates are built in thought and time. They come from many small efforts arranged with care. The life of the city is sustained by modest consistency. Laws are not sharp instruments, but slow agreements, shaped by conversation and patient judgment. A mind that tends to these agreements moves like a gardener pruning with care. The result is not chaos or rigid control, but a balanced order that supports many lives in quiet harmony. An owl that rests in soft shadow watches without urgency. Its eyes are calm and attentive, reflecting minimal motion but deep awareness. It perches with steady breath, as if it knows the value of stillness. Watchfulness in this way is not a tense alert. It is a relaxed vigilance, a presence that is attentive simply because it chooses to be. This kind of observing does not disturb the night. It becomes part of the night. It notices changes without loud reaction. Such silent observation invites clarity, where each detail is seen with gentle consideration. Thinking as a slow river, ideas flow around stones, finding new channels with patient persistence. Where a stone resists, water does not shout. It adjusts. The flow that endures finds a path by adapting rather than forcing. Wisdom often appears as this soft persistence. It honors obstacles by working with them. It is content to erode rough edges slowly. Over long spans, patterns smooth and settle. The river does not hurry. It moves because it has long fidelity to its direction. And that fidelity is itself a quiet strategy of forming and becoming. Gentle memory acts like a library with soft light. Shelves hold simple records of small acts and kind choices. They are not heavy with drama. They are there so that when decisions are needed, one can consult them with calm. A collected memory of measured actions becomes a map. It does not complicate, it clarifies. In turn, the mind that uses the map tends to step carefully, guided by what has been proven through small, calm trials. This method of living keeps pace slow and considerate, a tempo that favors the durable over the flashy. The heart of quiet planning lies in modest goals. A single lamp lit in a room makes a clear space. A few steady steps taken daily lead to a stable path. Small aims, tended without hurry, add up. There is no pressure to achieve everything at once. There is only the simple work of attending and adjusting. This approach nurtures resilience. It keeps the mind untroubled by the vastness of possibility. Instead, it invites the pleasure of steady progress, like the patient growth of seedlings toward a distant, kindly sun. The balance between mind and hand is like the gentle turning of a windmill. Each blade moves with even speed, neither racing nor stalling. The mechanism is simple and reliable. It converts a slow, steady movement into useful work. The rhythm is predictable and calming. When the mind and body align in such a rhythm, decisions become extensions of practice. They are grounded. They are neither impulsive nor blocked. In that alignment, strategy becomes a natural expression of steady habit, a pattern that requires no strain to maintain. A calm advisor speaks in soft, even sentences. Advice given this way does not push, it suggests. It offers small steps that can be tried and then adjusted. The listener is invited to consider rather than commanded to obey. This gentleness honors the autonomy of the mind receiving counsel. It trusts that thoughtful people will test and find what suits their situation. Quiet counsel fosters collaboration rather than conflict. It shapes an environment where reason can move without needing to raise its voice, and where each person feels respected and gently guided. Patterns of change are like the tide, slow and predictable in their way. The seed does not leap. It moves with a reliable cadence. Watching its rhythm can teach the mind to expect cycles rather than panics. There are rises and retreats, but they happen in an even manner. Strategy that respects cycles does not pretend to control them. It anticipates them and plans with that expectation. This kind of forethought feels calm because it rests on observation rather than fear. It trusts the long habit of recurrence and arranges resources accordingly, with softness and steady care. Sparing words are like small lanterns hung along a path. They provide enough light to see the next step without overwhelming the surroundings. Language used with restraint helps ideas land gently. It does not demand attention. It simply points. This economy of speech is a way of honoring silence as well. Silence and speech together create space for reflection. In that space, thoughts have room to settle. Decisions made in such a manner are quieter and often more humane because they emerge from consideration rather than reaction. The act of teaching is a slow opening of doors. A teacher who moves steadily invites learners to follow at a comfortable pace. The lesson is demonstrated, then repeated, then allowed to settle. The student absorbs in their own time. This pace respects the natural rhythm of understanding. It avoids pressure. It favors small, confirmed steps over rushed leaps. In that slow unfolding, comprehension deepens gently. The habit of learning in this way becomes a lifelong comfort. It turns curiosity into a calm practice rather than a frantic search. A woven shield, an olive branch, a simple pot, everyday things can carry a deeper meaning when handled with care. They remind the heart that daily life is itself a field for quiet wisdom. Routine tasks, done with attention, become forms of meditation. The repetition of a simple task teaches precision and patience. Each small act becomes an offering to steadiness. Over time, these acts form a fabric of life that is calm and reliable. The ordinary, when tended gently, becomes a foundation for thoughtful living. The slow turning of seasons is an invitation to adjust gently. There is no sudden command to change. Change comes with the light and temperature, and with the patterns of the sky. Noticing these shifts allows one to adapt without strain. Strategy built on seasonal rhythms accepts what cannot be hurried. It finds ways to prepare and respond that feel natural. This acceptance becomes a source of comfort. It teaches patience and a measured humility, the kind that makes room for both growth and rest. Listening in silence reveals small truths. In the quiet, details that are otherwise drowned out appear with clarity. A soft sound becomes meaningful. A subtle shift in expression becomes legible. The act of listening without comment allows things to be known without force. This kind of attention opens channels of understanding that quick speech often obscures. Wisdom in this manner is not loud. It is a series of quiet recognitions that, placed together, form a gentle map of what is needed and what can wait. Skill practiced slowly becomes a kind of effortless grace. Repetition creates memory in muscles and thoughts. Tasks that once required thought become familiar. The mind is freed to notice more subtle aspects of a situation. This quiet competence is a foundation for calm action. It reduces friction and allows decisions to be made with minimal disturbance. When competence is present, the need for display fades. Actions become simple and unobtrusive, like a small boat moving across still water, making small, clear ripples that settle easily. The idea of strategy as nurture rather than conquest is soft and steady. To nurture is to tend, to provide steady resources, and to prune when needed. It is a long-term devotion that does not require dramatic gestures. Instead, it relies on persistent, gentle attention. This approach favors slow growth, the kind that weathers time. It teaches generosity that is measured, so that giving can continue. Strategy anchored in nurture protects the future by valuing what endures. It does so without aggression, using patience as its primary tool. A mind at ease makes decisions by examining small contingencies. It asks modest questions and listens for modest answers. It does not seek absolute certainty. It accepts partial knowledge and moves in small, reversible steps. Such an approach resembles a craftsman adjusting a plan as the material reveals itself. Each correction is small and respectful of what has already been done. The result is a path that adapts gradually, confident in its ability to change direction without breaking. There is comfort in knowing that many small corrections keep a course true. The pacing of thought, like a measured metronome, helps balance mood and intent. Each tick is quiet and regular. It prevents extremes of rush or stagnation. The steady pace allows observation, reflection, and action to coexist without friction. The rhythm is simple and predictable. It anchors the mind so that even when complex choices appear, the core tempo remains undisturbed. This steady inner timing creates an atmosphere where strategy can be thoughtful rather than frantic, and where wisdom can be lived as a daily, gentle practice. A quiet council moves like a circle of low lamps. Those involved speak in calm, even tones. They take time to consider each line of thought. No one rushes a decision. There is a shared sense of responsibility that softens ego. Proposals are tested slowly and respectfully. Objections are heard as clarifications rather than attacks. In this manner, agreements are formed that are more likely to hold because they grew from mutual attention. The process itself models the kind of patient governance that sustains communities with quiet dignity. Patience gives room for learning from small mistakes. When errors are met with calm, they become lessons rather than judgments. A steady mind notes what happened and adjusts. The correction is modest and kind. This approach encourages experimentation within safe bounds. It fosters an environment where skill can develop without shame. Over time, competence grows through this gentle feedback loop. The atmosphere becomes one of supportive refinement rather than harsh dismissal. It allows confidence to build slowly, like layers of varnish, smoothing a surface over many careful passes. The image of an olive tree bearing fruit in slow cycles is restful. Fruit does not appear overnight. The tree tends its own pace, flowering and fruiting according to seasons. Those who rely on its fruit learn to prepare in advance. They save seeds. They cultivate soil. They prune gently. These steady acts of care build a living economy of sustenance. The strategy of tending, rather than demanding, yields a harvest that is reliable and calm. It shows how long-term attention and small adjustments produce steady reward. Walking paths through a garden of thought involves quiet steps. One does not dash from bed to bed. Instead, one pauses, notices, may bend to smell, then moves on. The mind that walks in such a garden favors observation and small delights. It does not need to gather every bloom at once. It honors the ease of savoring small things. In this rhythm, choices are not urgent. They are considered with a gentle curiosity, and that curiosity is enough to guide them without stress. Soft law that is applied with fairness becomes a framework of trust. When rules are simple and consistent, they help rather than punish. They are taught with patient explanation and enforced with steady, measured response. Such laws are not brittle. They are designed to hold a community together in a way that feels safe and humane. People can plan because expectations are clear and consistent. This steadiness becomes a form of wisdom in civic life, quiet and sustaining rather than zealous or harsh. In quiet moments of reflection, strategy often reveals itself as an inner alignment. The body, the breath, and the mind come into a coherent posture. When this alignment is present, choices are not frantic. They arise naturally from the place of balance. Actions taken from such a state have a calm integrity. They are neither showy nor oppressive. They move like a slow current that knows its course. This internal harmony becomes the source of decisions that are steady and humane. The work of shaping public spaces is a slow art. Plazas, roads, fountains, and trees are placed with an eye to daily life and future generations. The choices made do not demand applause. They are small conveniences that add up to dignity. A bench is placed where conversation might linger. A tree is planted where shade will be needed in years to come. This kind of planning treats time as an ally and respects the many small ways people live and breathe in shared places. It is strategy as care, expressed over long stretches. Quiet celebrations mark small achievements without excess. They acknowledge effort and encourage continuity. A modest meal shared, a gentle compliment given, a quiet moment of thanks. These soft rituals do not inflate small successes into spectacles. They root joy in the ordinary. By doing so, they teach that contentment can be steady rather than explosive. Happiness becomes a companion on the way rather than a prize at the end. This steady contentment supports continued effort and balanced judgment. Slow courage is the kind that starts again after a small defeat. It does not proclaim heroics. It keeps going with calm determination. The effort is measured. Failures are examined with gentleness. Lessons are integrated, and then the work resumes. There is no rush to resume dramatic action. Instead, a quiet resilience is cultivated through small, repeated recoveries. This steady resilience is a form of practical wisdom, one that refuses to be derailed by brief setbacks. The practice of discernment is like sorting seeds by hand. One moves slowly, noticing weight and texture. Set against a calm light, the choices are small and precise. The sorter does not guess. They check and set aside what is not wanted. This attention to detail becomes a method for clearer choices. It prevents wasteful effort and saves resources for what truly matters. The process is humble and patient, and over time it yields clarity that feels like polished glass. Sitting by a low fire, watching warmth spread through stone, teaches about thresholds. Heat moves slowly, settling into the coldest places by degrees. The fire does not demand the stone change at once. It patiently warms it. Strategy that acts slowly warms resistance into welcome. It invites cooperation rather than coercion. The process takes longer, but leaves less damage. Change that arrives by degrees tends to be more permanent and less shocking. This slow warming is a gentle art. A quiet map drawn with soft ink shows contours and known ways. It is not a declaration of conquest. It is a guide. Travelers use it to choose routes that align with their pace. The map is revised with care when new truths are discovered. Its lines are not rigid laws, but helpful suggestions. This method honors the landscape and the traveler alike. Strategy lived like map-making, values, observation, and honest depiction over grand promises. It supports slow travel and thoughtful arrival. A stable temperament is cultivated through even practice. Small daily habits, kept calmly, shape a steady mind. The breath, the posture, the small gestures of kindness. Over time, these habits become the base from which choices arise. The steady mind does not seek dramatic moments. It finds satisfaction in modest continuity. This temperament becomes a reliable anchor for whatever tasks appear. It helps one to move through complexity with composure and to return to simple steadiness when confusion arises. Quiet patience with young growth allows potential to become realized. Whether in plants, crafts, or ideas, care given without pressure fosters a natural maturation. There is respect for timing. The caretaker does not force fruit early. They provide light, water, and guidance. In due time, growth appears. This model of tending translates easily into other areas of life. It suggests that the best strategy may be to prepare conditions and then allow development to unfold, trusting that time will reveal what is ready. The mind that rests in modest expectations finds fewer shocks. When expectations are simple and reasonable, disappointments are softer. The calm person plans with buffers and gentle contingencies. There is space for change. This approach reduces sudden stress. It favors ease and adaptability. Life becomes a series of manageable adjustments rather than crisis management. This steadiness encourages long-term thinking because it is resilient to small disruptions and open to graceful recovery. In soft evening light, a slow walk along a known path brings comfort. Familiar stones, trees, and bends feel like old friends. The walk does not test limits. It is a quiet reaffirmation of continuity. Thoughts wander gently, touching memories and small plans. This relaxed journey is a practice of presence. It teaches that strategy need not be an urgent task. It can be a companion on a quiet walk, choosing steps that honor the terrain and the company. The essence of careful wisdom is a calm willingness to change slowly. It is a method that values patience, small corrections, and quiet observation. Decisions are gentle acts chosen with an eye to durability and kindness. This way of being does not call attention to itself. It simply moves forward, piece by piece, shaping a life that is steady and humane. The mind that adopts this pace finds a deep rest in the rhythm of small, considerate actions and stays ready to meet each new moment with composed attention. She moves through the quiet places of thought with a steady step, as if walking down a long corridor lit by a single slow lamp. Each footfall is measured, a small decision held lightly, and the world breathes in time with that rhythm. The air is cool and carries the scent of old books and green leaves, a gentle mix that calms the mind and invites attention to small, careful details. The calm is not empty. It is filled with quiet patterns and the patient ordering of things. Thoughts unravel softly, becoming threads to be examined without hurry. There is a kind of listening that is like holding a map beneath a soft night sky, running fingertips along faint lines and letting the hand learn the contours. She listens this way, attending to the soft edges of problems, to the spaces between words, to the pauses where something new can take root. In that quiet attention, choices feel less like leaps and more like careful steps, each one placed with respect for what came before and what might follow. The pace is unhurried, as if time itself has softened around each small decision. The loom of thought moves with a gentle rhythm, the shuttle sliding back and forth in slow, composed motion. Threads cross and form patterns that are simple and true, not ornate for their own sake, but made to hold meaning. Weaving is a patient craft, and here it becomes a metaphor for arranging life with intention. Each thread is chosen for its place, each knot tied with care. There is a softness to the work, a tactile reassurance that deliberate making can quiet the restless parts of the mind. The hands remember what the heart has already known. Outside, an olive tree stands in steady witness, its leaves whispering like pages turning. The tree does not hurry to be what it is. Growth is a long, graceful unfolding. Its roots go deep, finding quiet springs and holding fast through seasons of wind and rain. Watching growth this way teaches a gentle patience, an acceptance that some things arrive on their own slow timetable. The heart learns to settle into that pace, to breathe with the steady leaning toward light, to trust that gentleness and endurance together yield flourishing. Light falls across a tiled floor in the evening, divided into soft bands that mark time without demanding attention. The light does not shout. It simply moves and shapes the space, revealing one corner, then another. In that shifting glow, plans can be considered as softly altering shapes, each step revealed gradually. There's no rush to define everything at once. Instead, there is a kindness in letting forms emerge, as if a picture could only be seen by allowing shadows to play their part. The slower one goes, the more nuance becomes visible. Conversations are like quiet rivers here, flowing without urgent currents, carrying reflections on their surface. Words are chosen with thought, not to wound or to win, but to make room for understanding. Listening becomes the most important act, a deliberate opening that lets the other speak, and the mind reshape itself in the echo. In that space, strategy is not conquest, but conversation, a cooperative movement toward clarity. Gentle questions ripple outward, creating small waves that alter the shoreline of a problem, softly reshaping what seemed fixed. Metal can be cool and reassuring when touched, warm again when brought near to flames of refinement. Bronze, carefully worked, holds both strength and clarity, a support for thought and action alike. The process of shaping metal is slow and attentive. Heat, hammer, cool. Each step tempers and defines. This rhythm is like the shaping of ideas. They are heated by attention, hammered by experience, and cooled by reflection. The result is something that can stand firm while remaining light with purpose, ready to be carried when needed. There is a steady clarity to strategy when it is shaped by an inner calm. It is not a rush to victory, but a careful arrangement of possibilities, like setting stones so that water may flow where it will do the most good. Strategic thinking, when gentle, seeks to protect what is cherished and to allow life to prosper. It considers the long view, the seasons ahead, and the small steps that will bring balance. In that horizon-minded thinking, courage and prudence move together, neither hurried nor brittle, but held in a quiet harmony. Memory is a soft shelf where certain objects are gently placed, not crowded, each given its own space to breathe. Some memories are like small vessels of light, quietly glowing when touched. Others are compact and dark, their shapes learned without needing to be called upon. Gathering memories this way becomes a practice of care, arranging experience so that the hand can always find what it needs. The mind becomes a serene archive, accessible without strain, where the past is honored without pulling the present into turmoil. The owl that moves without sound teaches a particular kind of observation, one that notices both the obvious and the faintest stirrings. Silent flight is not absence. It is a form of attentive presence, seeing and knowing without disturbance. Observation in this manner becomes a practice of gentle awareness, an ability to perceive without immediate reaction. It is a restful vigilance, like watching embers keep their heat without flare. Such attention allows for choices that arise from clear seeing rather than from fear or haste. There is a rhythm to planning that resembles the careful drafting of a garden path, choosing stones, measuring rises, letting the curve respond to the shape of the land. Paths guide without forcing. They invite a pace that suits the traveler, and they hold the landscape in gentle order. When strategy is fashioned like a path, it respects the contours of life and the rhythms of the people who walk it. It makes space for rest, for turning, for pausing, and for returning. The path is not a command. It is a thoughtful offering. Silence itself is a teacher here, not empty but rich with subtle tones. In quiet, small distinctions become evident, soft differences in texture and tone that are drowned out by clamor. Silence allows for the slow settling of thought, for the separation of the urgent from the important. It is a fertile ground where new patterns can form. Resting in silence is not avoidance, it is preparation, a way of gathering strength and perspective so that action, when it comes, is careful and appropriate. The sky at night is a deep, steady canvas, scattered with distant lights that suggest patterns rather than tell them outright. Stars do not hurry. They simply are, each a point in a larger design. Looking upward in this way invites a sense of humility and scope, a softening of immediate anxieties in the presence of vast calm. There is comfort in being small within a wide order, in allowing plans to be part of something larger. This perspective steadies the heart, encourages patience, and tempers quickness with a long view. Skill is like a quiet river that wears down a rock over seasons, not by force, but by consistency. Practice done with gentle attention transforms roughness into smoothness, not by crushing, but by ongoing patient contact. Mastery in this light is not about proving oneself, but about quiet refinement, about making a craft lighter through care. The hands learn to move without strain. The mind remembers subtle cues, and the whole being becomes aligned with the work. This alignment brings a deep tranquility that goes beyond accomplishment. There is a soft arithmetic to decision-making when it is unhurried, a careful balancing of small factors that together form a wise choice. It is not a dramatic calculus, but a steady adding and subtracting of considerations, each weighed with equal tenderness. The heart and the mind meet in that place where value is measured not only by outcome, but by how the choice rests in the body and the community. Decisions made slowly in this way find their ground and do not tremble easily. Compassion sits quietly beside judgment, softening the edge of critique with understanding. To see a fault is not always to condemn. Often it is to notice a place that asks for gentle correction. Compassion allows for correction that heals rather than harms, that guides with clear boundaries and warm regard. When wisdom moves in this manner, it resembles a gardener pruning a plant so it can grow stronger, using careful cuts and thoughtful attention, always aiming for the flourishing of what is tended. Breath is a simple teacher of balance, the rise and fall that keeps the body in gentle motion. When breath is observed slowly, it invites the mind to follow and settle. Each inhale brings a small clarity, each exhale a release. This rhythm anchors thought, making strategies more natural and less forced. Breathing like this becomes a companion for every deliberation, a soft metronome that reminds the thinker to remain steady and humane in every small calculation. Light and shadow work together like argument and assent, each shaping the other softly. Shadow gives depth to light, and light rescues shadow from complete obscurity. In thought and action, opposites need not fight. They can balance, each revealing what the other cannot. This interplay creates a richer understanding, a three-dimensional sense of truth that holds nuance and refuses the flattening rush of certainty. The mind learns to welcome contrast without becoming divided. Small rituals help steady the day, repeated actions performed with care so that the mind can find its center. These rituals are not burdens, but anchors, arranging a cup, smoothing a cloth, setting a page marker. They create a quiet order that the heart recognizes and relaxes into. Rituals make room for intention, turning ordinary acts into gentle commitments. Over time, they become the bones of a calm life, simple supports that keep the body and spirit aligned. Time is treated here as a soft companion, not an enemy. It moves on its own slow path, and there is no need to force it. Planning with respect for time means allowing processes to unfold, knowing when to wait and when to move. It is like tending a candle, bringing attention to the flame without panicked haste, steadying the wick so that the light endures. The patient steward of time finds that much can be achieved by respectful pacing rather than relentless pressure. Curiosity is a quiet flame that invites exploration without insisting on outcomes. It asks gentle questions and lingers at the edges of knowing, enjoying the taste of wonder. Curiosity does not demand answers. It enjoys the unfolding. In this calm way, learning becomes a delight that heals anxiety, because the point is not to master everything at once, but to savor discovery. The mind opens like a room, receiving new light slowly and savoring the texture of each new thought. Courage here is measured and steady, like a low burn that persists longer than a flare. It is the willingness to act in accord with what is right, even when that action is small and solitary. Quiet courage does not need applause. It needs only fidelity, a small, persistent faithfulness to what one knows to be true. This courage supports choices that protect, that heal, and that preserve dignity. It is a calm force that does not shout, but becomes the backbone of daily life. The concept of fairness emerges from a slow weighing of effect and intention, a desire to balance the needs of one with the needs of many. Fairness is not a blunt scale, but a caring measurement recognizing context, history, and capacity. It is exercised with humility, aware of its limits and open to correction. When fairness is gentle, it mends relationships rather than tearing them. It seeks to repair as it measures, to restore trust through measured acts. Decision-making can be likened to tending a flame in a lantern, choosing the right amount of fuel, guarding against drafts, and moving with care through uncertain pathways. The light is small but steady, enough to show the steps immediately before, without blinding the eyes to what lies beyond. This modest illumination is often more useful than a blinding glare, because it keeps the walker safe and attentive. Strategy in this mode values modest, reliable action over grand, risky ventures. Craftsmanship is honored when care is its main ingredient. The making of tools and garments, of letters and plans, is less about show and more about usefulness and beauty that serves. When craft is performed with quiet attentiveness, it brings pleasure to both maker and user. There is a dignity in producing something that will be used and loved, a humility in understanding the ordinary importance of small things. This humility becomes a guiding principle for how plans are shaped and how actions are taken. Listening to others is like tuning a string instrument, adjusting tension until the tone is clear and true. It takes patience and an ear willing to notice subtleties. When a mind learns to listen closely, misunderstandings become less frequent and connection deepens. The act of listening itself can be the greatest gift, making space for another to be understood and, in turn, to understand. This gentle exchange nourishes relationships and steadies even difficult decisions. The idea of justice is softened when it is combined with mercy, becoming more like a careful shaping than an unyielding decree. Mercy tempers firmness, reminding the mind that people are complex and contexts matter. Justice practiced with mercy seeks restoration rather than mere punishment, aiming to repair harm and teach new ways forward. This approach is patient, refusing quick solutions in favor of healing that will endure. It trusts the slow work of mending when it is done with attentiveness. The steady center of thought is like a quiet hearth that warms everything around it without flame. In that center, mind and heart align, and choices feel rooted in a calm integrity. The hearth does not call attention to itself. It simply provides steady heat that allows life to proceed. Sitting near such a hearth, one can contemplate actions with warmth, not cold calculation, and decisions become expressions of a settled character. The presence of this inner warmth steadies all other movements. Preparation is not a frantic piling up of resources, but a thoughtful arranging of what is useful, spared of clutter. Preparedness means knowing what is needed and having it accessible, not stockpiled in panic. It is a domestic wisdom, like keeping a small medicine chest in good order, a lamp with fresh oil, a path that is cleared. This kind of readiness calms anxiety and allows action to be timely and appropriate. It reflects respect for the future without fostering fear. The mind can be likened to a slow river valley where ideas gather like smooth stones, each placed by time and water until they fit naturally. In such a valley, the stones are not forced. They are set with patience. Thinking in this place honors emergence and allows clarity to form without coercion. The river does its work steadily, reshaping edges and settling silt, and so the mind rearranges its content gently, making room for new patterns that feel true. Teaching is at its best when it is a soft guiding, not a harsh commanding. A mentor offers tools and models, invites imitation, and leaves space for growth. Teaching like this trusts the learner to find their pace and allows mistakes to be part of learning. The role of the guide is to steady, to shine a light on possibilities, and to step back when the learner is ready to act. This kind of teaching fosters confidence and curiosity, and it honors the learner's inherent capacity. Humility is a subtle companion to wisdom, a quiet acknowledgement of limits and a willingness to learn. Humility does not denigrate achievement, but places it in a broader context, a recognition that no person knows everything. This openness invites correction and new insight, and it makes room for cooperative thinking. Humble wisdom is patient, listening more than speaking, ready to be changed by truth rather than defending an ego. Order is not an imposition, but a friendly arranging of elements so that life is easier and more pleasant. Order protects energy, reduces friction, and creates a landscape where thought can move with less struggle. It is like tidying a room so the eyes do not have to work too hard. or arranging tools so hands can find them quickly. Order respects freedom because clarity and predictability free up attention for things that matter. Gentle order is a kindness offered to the self and to others. Responsibility is carried like a steady sack of seeds, treated carefully because what is sown will grow. Responsibility asks for mindful tending, for the recognition that small acts can become larger. It does not mean taking on everything, but choosing what one can tend well. This selective stewardship fosters trust and yields well-timed fruits. Handling responsibility with gentleness prevents overwhelm and creates conditions for sustainable care. Reflection is an ongoing quiet turning, a willingness to look back without harshness and to learn without reproach. It is a practice of soft inspection, noticing what worked and what did not, receiving lessons like small gifts. This reflective practice strengthens future choices by making them informed rather than reactive. It is an act of kindness toward oneself, acknowledging effort and pointing toward growth without shame. Trust is built slowly in the small, consistent acts that align words and deeds. Trust does not arrive as a sudden declaration, but grows like lichen on stone, gradually and resiliently. Each small promise kept adds a filament to the web, and over time, the network becomes strong enough to hold burden without snapping. Trust calms the mind because it reduces the need for constant vigilance, freeing attention for more creative work and quiet joy. The landscape of thought benefits from seasons, times for sowing, times for tending, and times for rest. Recognizing these cycles helps to pace action and acceptance. There are seasons for learning, for quiet application, for outward movement, and for retreat. Observing these rhythms prevents the mind from becoming exhausted by continuous push. Life paced by seasons becomes a thoughtful pattern rather than a frantic race. Imagination is a gentle horizon that invites new directions without demanding immediate arrival. It can be explored slowly, sketched in soft strokes, allowed to breathe. Imagination paired with discipline becomes a steady builder, able to craft plans that are visionary yet manageable. This slow building honors both dream and detail, allowing possibilities to be tested in small steps before they are fully undertaken. Compromise can be a bridge rather than a surrender, a thoughtful balancing that preserves what matters while allowing movement forward. When compromise is chosen from a place of clarity, it becomes an art of negotiation that respects dignity. It is not giving up, but calibrating so that multiple needs can be met. This equanimous approach reduces conflict and fosters cooperation, creating pathways where rigid demands would cause collapse. Perception is sharpened by the gentle practice of attention, a steady noticing of nuance and pattern. With practice, small signs become readable, subtle cues become understandable, and the world yields more of its secrets. This sharpened perception is not sharp in a painful way, but refined like a well-polished lens. It allows action to be better aimed and relationships to be more tenderly navigated. Clarity arrives not by force, but by patient seeing. Patience itself is a form of strength, a quiet staying with what is necessary without becoming brittle. It steadies nerves and allows complexity to be met without panic. Patience does not mean passivity, it is active presence, a deliberate choice to remain engaged while waiting for the right conditions to act. In this steady waiting, wisdom often arises like a slow sunrise, marking the right time to move. Empathy softens strategy so that plans are not merely efficient, but humane. To plan with empathy is to consider the lived experience of others, to imagine the step each person takes, and to ease the path. Empathic planning reduces harm and increases the likelihood of cooperation. It sees each person as a fellow traveler rather than a mere instrument of outcome. And in that seeing, strategy becomes kindness in motion. Wonder remains a gentle companion, reminding the mind that there are always mysteries beyond immediate comprehension. Wonder does not unsettle, it expands, inviting humility and curiosity. In the presence of wonder, rigid certainties relax, and room is made for new understanding. This openness to marvel keeps the heart soft and the mind alive, securing a restful curiosity that fuels slow, sustainable growth. Steady routines create a frame within which freedom can be safely exercised, like rails that guide a carriage without confining the landscape. Routines are not prisons but supports, giving form to the day so that creativity can flourish inside a reliable structure. These routines are chosen with gentle wisdom, leaving space for spontaneous movement while protecting the rhythms that sustain well-being. Generosity practiced quietly enriches both giver and receiver, not through show, but through sincere attention to another's need. Small acts of giving, when done without expectation, build a world where mutual care is ordinary. Generosity aligned with discretion avoids waste and keeps the gesture meaningful. It is a soft investment in communal life that pays returns in trust and warmth. Curiosity about limits leads to cautious exploration, testing edges with gentle steps rather than reckless leaps. This curious caution discovers what can be stretched and what must be respected. It is a careful bravery that learns through small experiments, each one teaching boundaries and potentials. Such exploration expands capacity without shattering stability. Balance is found by noticing where opposition can coexist without erosion, where strength and softness can be aligned so that neither consumes the other. Balance looks like a duet, two different elements moving in harmony, each supporting the other. In human life, this balance sustains relationships, decisions, and inner peace, a soft equilibrium that allows complexity without collapse. Simplicity becomes a practice of subtraction, removing what is unnecessary so that the essential can be seen. It is not a denial of richness, but a careful distillation. When life is simplified in this thoughtful way, attention is freed to cultivate what matters most. Simplicity is thus an act of care, a gentle trimming that invites clarity and reduces strain. The steady presence of a guiding mind is less about control and more about attentive stewardship. Guiding is a patient arrangement of circumstances, a thoughtful nudging rather than a domineering push. This presence supports growth and guards against reckless impulses, creating conditions in which thoughtful action can thrive. It is a calm authority rooted in service. A contemplative life values deep moments of rest as much as activity, recognizing that renewal is essential for wise action. Rest is not neglect. It is the soil in which future endeavors take root. Allowing oneself to replenish is a strategic choice that preserves capacity for long-term care. In rest, small intuitions can surface, and the quiet mind can weave patterns unnoticed in hurried times. There is a kindly courage in facing difficulty with a steady gaze, acknowledging pain without being consumed by it. This form of courage accepts the reality of hardship and chooses appropriate, humane responses. It does not pretend the struggle is a necessary badge, but treats it as a circumstance to be addressed with compassion and skill. Such dignity in adversity teaches others how to meet their own trials without despair. Purpose is a gentle direction rather than a rigid blueprint, a soft north that guides choices while allowing for unexpected turns. Having purpose means having a sense of tending toward something meaningful, not a tyrannical plan. It gives coherence to small acts and comfort in uncertain moments. When purpose is gentle, it invites participation rather than commands obedience. Thoughtful patience holds the space for gradual change, understanding that deep transformation is a slow accretion of small choices. These choices accumulate quietly, and over time they shape character and circumstance. Patience with change avoids the frenzy of instant results and honors the natural pace of growth. It trusts the steady accumulation of good acts to produce lasting fruits. Attention to the welfare of others creates a landscape in which strategy is shared rather than imposed. When plans are built with others in mind, they are more likely to be sustained and gentle in practice. This communal orientation values dialogue, mutual care, and the steady building of institutions that are resilient and kind. Collective wisdom emerges slowly through respectful exchange. The night continues to hold a soft hush, and her movements are measured like those of someone tending a slow fire. Each motion is a deliberate caretaking, not a rush to finish, but a gently ongoing work that values continuity. The quiet offers space for reflection and the steady arranging of plans. Without fanfare, the world is kept in a careful order that allows life to breathe and move without strain.